Hey, welcome to Firescale Audiobooks. If you enjoy our audiobooks, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, feel free to share your review in the comments section below.
The blaring horn and the shriek of tires were the last sounds Leon heard before the world went black. He was sprawled on the cold asphalt, the blinding headlights of the truck his final sight. "Truckquin," he groaned, a bitter laugh escaping his lips. "You took my joke a little too seriously." The pain was overwhelming, then it faded into nothingness. He jolted awake, gasping for air. His body was slick with sweat, his heart hammering in his chest. "What a nightmare," he muttered, sitting up. But as he looked around, a chilling realization washed over him. This was not his apartment. The room was vast and magnificent. Towering black pillars with glowing crimson markings lined the walls. A deep red silk canopy loomed over a bed so large it could fit three of him. The furniture was made of dark oak with plush velvet cushions, and the scent of incense and old paper hung in the air. This was a place of luxury, of power, a place fit for royalty. His mind raced. Was he kidnapped? It didn't make sense. He was just a random guy with no money. Then he looked at his hands. They were pale and firm, the skin soft and unblemished. He was no longer wearing his usual cheap hoodie and jeans, but an elegant black tunic embroidered with silver threads and fine trousers. A wild, exhilarating thought took hold. He raced to the window and threw it open. The night air, scented with a strange perfume, rushed in. Outside, two moons hung in the sky over a medieval city of cobblestone streets, towering castles, and glowing lanterns. A wide grin spread across his face as joy surged through him. "It happened. I transmigrated," he bellowed, laughing in delight. "Truckquin, you are a true friend. You really did it." He spun back into the room, collapsing on the floor, his eyes sparkling with anticipation. "Now for the script," he whispered. "This is where the cheat system shows up." He stood up, ready to greet his destiny. Nothing. He waited. 1 minute. 2. 5. The silence was deafening. His smile faltered, replaced by a deep sigh. Of course, Lady Luck was never on my side. He rubbed his temples, resigned to his fate. Maybe he was just a regular guy in a new world, destined for a normal life, albeit a much more comfortable one. Well, at least I have a nice bed. Just as he was about to lean back, a searing pain erupted in his skull. He cried out, clutching his head as a flood of memories, not his own, overwhelmed him. Faces, places, battles, and secrets tore through his mind like a tidal wave. And then a name, Leon Moonwalker, Duke of the Moonstone Kingdom. The system's arrival. A wave of searing agony ripped through Leon's skull. He clutched his head as a flood of foreign memories, faces, places, battles, and secrets poured into his mind. They settled, and with them, a name, Leon Moonwalker, Duke of the Moonstone Kingdom. The world, he learned, was called Galvia. He now inhabited the body of a man who was once a feared warrior, respected and powerful, but with a fatal secret, an incurable disease that had slowly consumed him. An embarrassing affliction that Leon quickly understood. Erectile dysfunction, he whispered, his face stiffening. He looked down, a wave of despair washing over him. "You got to be kidding me." He groaned, burying his face in his hands. He died a virgin in his last life, dreaming of a new one filled with adventure, pleasure, and a harem of beautiful women. But now he was in the body of a man who couldn't even stand by his side. So that's why he never liked women. He couldn't. No wonder he died last night. Not in battle, but from this wretched disease. His dreams of a lustful new life shattered. Then the door creaked open. A soft breeze swept in, carrying the scent of flowers. Standing in the doorway was a young woman of breathtaking beauty, with blood-red hair, crimson eyes, and a figure of divine curves, all wrapped in a form-fitting red and white robe. She was a vision, a goddess. The name Rhys Moonwalker surfaced in his mind. She was the Duke's adopted daughter, a girl he had taken in years ago. The old Duke, unable to have a family of his own due to his condition, had raised her with care and protection. Rias's eyes widened in shock and delight. "Daddy!" she cried, running to him. She wrapped her arms around his chest, her soft body pressed against him. "Finally, you're awake. I thought I lost you." A single tear rolled down her cheek, wetting his tunic. Leon was stunned by her warmth, her scent, her closeness. So soft, he thought, his heart pounding. He awkwardly patted her back. "It's all right, dear. I'm fine now." His voice was calm and soothing, a performance he didn't know he could give. All those college drama classes finally paid off, he thought to himself. Rias looked up at him, her eyes shining. "You scare me so much, Daddy. The doctor said your heart was beating, but you weren't waking up." Leon smiled reassuringly. "I must have fainted from exhaustion. I've been working too hard," he lied, pulling from the Duke's memories to sound convincing. Rias sniffed but nodded, her face still etched with concern. "You must be hungry. I'll go get you some food so you don't have to move." "That sounds wonderful," Leon replied. Rias gave him one last look before turning and leaving, her graceful walk and swaying hips mesmerizing him. After she was gone, Leon's smile faded. A new, troubling memory surfaced. Rias wasn't just a sweet daughter. She had an obsession with the Duke, a daddy complex that was anything but innocent. She had tried to seduce him again and again, but the old Leon had always rejected her, not out of moral strength, but because of his condition. His impotence had made her attempts futile, and she never understood why. "I see. That's why he stayed pure, even with that beauty by his side. Damn this erectile dysfunction." Just as he was lamenting his unfortunate fate, a clear voice echoed in his mind. "Ding! System initializing condition complete. Connecting the Supreme Spouse system to host soul. Connection established successfully." A transparent blue panel appeared before his eyes. Host information. Name: Leon Moonwalker. Age: 30. Cultivation: Grandmaster. Race: Human. Talent: Average. Level 1. HP: 100 out of 100. STR: 37 out of 100. AGL: 32 out of 100. VIT: 28 out of 100. STM: 30 out of 100. INT: 20 out of 100. DEF: 29 out of 100. Blank points: 10. Limit of a normal human: 10. Skill unlocked. Touch of Charm. An inactive skill that enhances the user's charm and appeal when physically touching a woman. The touch is charged with a mystical, sensual aura, and women become more susceptible. Once touched, they can never be fully satisfied by anyone else. The longer the physical contact, the greater the effect. Harem members: none. System bonus: you gain 10 blank points. You can distribute them freely to any stat. Notice: the Supreme Spouse system has been installed successfully. From now on, the host can inherit the power, talent, physique, and bloodline of any woman he sleeps with. The stronger the woman, the better the benefit. Friendly reminder: if you wish to become stronger, build a big harem. A price for healing. Leon gazed at the glowing screen before him, eyes wide with incredulity. A slow smile crept onto his face until it became a full-blown smirk. "Finally, my cheat has arrived." His voice rang through the empty room. He laughed at himself, a giddy, boyish sound rising from his throat. With a soft hum, he rose and stretched, his sculpted form lit by the golden light filtering in through the great windows. "I'm not surviving in this world. I'm going to rule it." Whistling a cheerful melody, he went to the bathroom, eager to rinse away the remaining weariness and begin anew. The bathroom, as everything else on the Duke's property, was extravagant. Marble flooring, gold-edged sinks, and a wide round tub sculpted from obsidian stone sat in the center, steaming water already overflowing with a delicate herbal scent twining in the air. Leon undressed with a casual air, his robe falling off his shoulders and gathering at his feet. Stepping into the bath, he slipped on the edge and stumbled clumsily. Shit! Splashing, he half fell into the tub, water spilling over the top. For a moment, there was silence. Then, with a sigh of bliss, he relaxed into the warm water, letting it massage his muscles. With the heat creeping through his flesh, Leon leaned against the railing and rested his forehead on the brim. his brow furrowed in concentration. So, the system informed me that I need to collect a harem in order to become stronger. But he looked down toward the portion of his anatomy which had long provided inner anguish to previous Leon. How the devil am I going to do that with this pathetic manhood? He winced at the sight of his flaccid manhood bobbing in the water. The recollections of the old Duke's life brought back memories of the irreversible affliction, erectile dysfunction, that had tormented the old man. It was part of the reason that the old Leon never wed or had lovers. But I'm not him anymore, Leon grumbled, determination shining in his eyes. System, are you there? Yes, host. You told me I have to build a harem to become stronger. But this body, how? Affirmative. The host has a congenital malfunction. But if the host wishes, the system can fix the body. Leon's heart missed a beat. You can cure it? He asked tentatively. Yes, host. But fixing the body costs. Leon squinted. What type of cost? A complete body healing process will reset the host's cultivation. Current stage, Grandmaster to mortal. Silence ensued. His eyes opened in shock. What memory he retains from past Leon based on such memories in Galvia power level. Cultivation divide in 7 level. Mortal, novice, master, grandmaster, monarch, grand monarch conqueror. And the grandmaster level, one of the highest posts in Galvia. Few made it to that level in a lifetime. It had been the best resource the former Duke had left behind. He hesitates little, but he considers, but what was the use of that strength if he could not utilize the system? He gritted his teeth. If I heal my body with the system's assistance, I'll come back. Faster. Stronger. No bounds this time. There was a long silence before he made up his mind. Do it. Heal me. As you wish, host. Initiating the healing process. A green light surrounded his body, throbbing with heat and life. A buzzing ran through his limbs, then a jolt of energy shot through his center. Leon moaned quietly, sensing the change. His muscles spasmed, his joints cracked, and his body seemed to rejuvenate from the inside out. Then he glanced down. Oh! His eyes widened as he saw his previously dead manhood slowly begin to rise, thickening and lengthening to a proud 6 inches. Holy shit! He drew in, the combination of awe and elation slamming into him like a speeding truck. It's healed! He bellowed out a laugh, bouncing in his bath like he just bounced off the surface of the pond. Not just was his brokenness fixed, but then he thinks something else resolved within his body. An unexplainable lightness. He scowled and grumbled, System, was that all? Healing complete. Host's internal injuries have also been mended. Cultivation has been reset to mortal. Leon grunted. Yeah, I can feel it. I'm weak as hell now compared to when I arrive in this world. Nevertheless, he couldn't help but deny it. He now feels whole as a man. System, he said once more, you never gave me a starting gift. Where's my bonus? Host has 1 pending system bonus gift. Then why didn't you tell me earlier? Host did not ask. TCH fine. I'm asking now. Would the host like to open the system bonus gift? Yes. A golden glow of a treasure chest before him, slightly shining. A question followed. System bonus gift, open. Yes/no. Leon chose yes immediately. The screen flashed, and then another question popped out. Choose one. 1. Receive forgotten knowledge of Galvia, or 2. Receive a random skill. Leon thought. With his cultivation reset, most skills would not be applicable yet. Knowledge, however, he remembered the 10 blank points he had remaining. System, can I spend blank points on buying skills? Yes, host. Then it's settled. I'll take the knowledge. Wise decision. Knowledge transferring now. Processing. Downloading knowledge. Abruptly, a deluge of information invaded his mind. Ancient history, theories of cultivation, lost secrets of his family, hidden planes, and forbidden arts. His mind was overspilling. He gasped a few minutes later, cradling his head as the deluge of information swept across all reaches of his awareness. A few agonizing minutes passed before he reclined in the tub, breathing, chest falling and rising. That was intense. Note, because of low cultivation, parts of the knowledge have been sealed. Unlock condition, Grand Monarch stage. Leon's eyes flew open. What? It is for the host's safety. Oh, don't you even try that crap now. System only has host's best interest in mind. Leon grunted and rubbed a damp hand across his face. Fine. I'll get there sooner or later. Just don't keep any more surprises, okay? No promises. TCH, asshole system. Having bathed, Leon exited the bathroom and rubbed himself down using a soft towel. He crossed over to the wardrobe and began to put on a loose ensemble of nightwear. A satin pair of black trousers and an open-neck white shirt, one that he did deliberately leave open halfway to display his chest. The material was light, good for sleeping in, yet also presented him in a roguishly dignified manner. As he fastened the waistband, he noticed a small mirror in the corner of the room. Curiosity struck. He walked over and looked at his reflection and froze. Holy fuck! A breath escaped him. I'm handsome. He turned his head left and right, inspecting every angle with awe. Long, thick raven black hair surrounded his pale but smooth face. His golden eyes glowed softly under the light of the room. Bony brows, a finely sculpted nose, and a powerful jawline gave him the appearance of a statue of a long-forgotten god. Leon blinked, then smiled. If I were on Earth, I'd be an idol. No, a legend, he breathed. The door creaked open with a soft click at that moment. A glimpse of temptation. The door squeaked open with a soft, slow complaint. Leon, his back to the mirror, spun round, gold eyes closing in wait to see who had come in. His half-buttoned white shirt billowed slightly as he moved, revealing the chiseled lines of his chest beneath the loose-fitting fabric. Through the partly open door, she slipped inside, Rus Moonwalker. Her loose, flowing crimson tresses sparkled in the faint light, trailing down her back like burning lava. Her own eyes, similarly bright crimson color, locked into Leon with a silent charge. She wore a form-fitting silk dress in moonlight blue, which cinched tightly over her plump curves as her long legs peeked out between a side slit with every movement. Leon's eyes widened. Shit! Before he had the chance to say a single word, the door behind Rus creaked open again, and a second person stepped through. A person that almost made his jaw drop in surprise. It was her, a woman with long, silky purple hair pulled back in an elegant bun, and piercing violet eyes that contained a touch of cool maturity. Her pale skin glowed in the golden light, and her body, gods, her body was a work of art carved with sinful purpose. She was dressed in the traditional maid uniform of the Moonwalker house, but on her, it was anything but traditional. The black and white clothing hugged her curves, defining her large breasts and broad hips. The skirt finished scandalously short above her knees, and the tight corset-style top thrust her bosom into a gentle, inviting swell. Lacy black stockings wrapped around her legs, secured by dainty garter straps barely visible beneath her skirt. Leon's thoughts reeled. The old Leon. He got to live with this sort of beauty every day. A low rumble echoed through his mind. That man was really cursed. To have paradise at his disposal, but no ability to reach for it. And now, he had no disease, no disorder, and that meant he was free to live. He gazed as Rus and the maid came in completely, the latter wheeling in a silver cart covered in dishes, opening the warm smell of herbs and freshly prepared foods. From his inherited memories, he saw her instantly. Arya, head, maid of House Moonwalker, loyal, effective, cool as ice, and most of all, his personal assistant. Leon's eyes darted between Rus and Arya. Thoughts, raw, feral, and mischievous, flashed across his mind like lightning in a tempest. Across the room, Rias's scarlet eyes dwelled on Leon, following the line of his raven-black hair around his face, how the open shirt revealed his taut, defined chest. His golden eyes glittered with an air of self-assurance that seemed new, raw, powerful. He's always handsome, she mused, nibbling her lower lip. But today he looks like sin incarnate. Arya, with a completely stoic face, sneaked a peek at her young master. In her mind, anything but serenity. They say Lord Leon is the most handsome man in the whole Moonstone Kingdom. They lied. He's the most handsome in the whole damn Galvia. Leon's eyes darted between Rias and Arya, and no matter how hard he tried, his mind started to go down the wrong path. Seeing both beauties in one place awakened wild fantasies. Damn it, not now. A hasty cough was forced from his throat, trying to divert both himself and the women from any visible reaction. Rias, he replied, his tone smooth and steady. You brought food. Then both women blinked, snapped out of their inner worlds. Yes, Daddy, Rias replied brightly, cheeks a little pink as she pushed her hair behind her ear. Arya elegantly wheeled the trolley to the room's center and bowed low. I do hope the meal meets with your approval, my lord. Leon nodded courtesy. Thank you, Arya. The one word was sufficient to bring a glimmer of delight into her violet eyes, though she hid it speedily. Turning away, Leon's attention fell to the hypnotic sway of her hips. Every step tempting, hypnotic. Was she doing it on purpose? He asked himself, amused. Or simply the way she moved? Either way, gods, I adore it. Just before Arya exited, Rias reached out and gently grabbed Leon's hand. He turned to her, surprised by the softness of her touch. Daddy, let's eat together, okay? She smiled, eyes gleaming. Of course, dear. They headed towards the bed and sat beside each other at the corner. Rias took off the silver covers from the dishes successively, uncovering a lavish spread. Meat with spicy herbs roasted to perfection, a golden soup with green specks of mana-enhanced parsley swirling within, soft-baked bread smothered with melted butter, and a side of small violet herbs famed for their mana restoration abilities, all neatly laid on the tray. I personally saw to it the cook used restorative herbs, Rias exclaimed, her tone sweet but punctuated with pride. I instructed her to make everything light and healthy for you. You just awakened, Daddy. I want to make this dish more flavorful and lighter for you. Leon turned to her affectionately and tweaked her nose lovingly. Thank you, darling. That's nice of you. Rias burst out laughing and blushed furiously, shining eyes sparkling with joy. They sat down to eat. As he took a spoonful of soup, Rias leaned forward and put her hand over his. Let me feed you, she said, her eyes with warmth. So Rias took up a piece of meat. He arched his eyebrow, being playful, but didn't say no. She took the piece of meat up to his lips, feeding him bit by bit. The warmth of the meat dissolved on his tongue, and he was amazed. It was not bad at all. Actually, this tastes better than most I've had back on Earth, he thought, blinking. The herbs had a tingling aftertaste. Invigorating. Soothing. Earth had spices and methodologies, sure, but mana-infused food? Next level. He grabbed for a bread and delicately ripped off a piece, dipping it into the soup and handing it to Rias. Her eyes opened wide before her lips rolled back into a sweet smile and opened her mouth to take a bite. Feeding me too, Daddy, she mentioned in little teasing voice, her voice as soft as silk. I thought, well, that's fair enough, Leon answered, attempting to remain even-toned, even though her being there was definitely getting to him. Her aroma, honey with a subtle note of flower-scented manna perfume, was dizzying. They went on with this small dance, taking bites and feeding one another bite by bite, their fingers occasionally touching each other's lips, their eyes meeting more than once. Rias's cheeks turned red with a fine blush of rose whenever their skin came into contact, but she did not draw back. Instead, she inched closer, her knee glancing off his thigh. She's so damn close. Leon's mind ran, his golden eyes snapping to the soft shape of her lips, the gentle swell of her chest under her dress. Her heartbeat, it's fast, and yet there was no hurry, no urgency, only heat and something gentle. Rias's mind, though, was considerably more ruffled under her placid exterior. He looked so different today, stronger, bolder. His eyes used to be dull and tired. Now they glow like gold. It's like he's reborn. She caught herself sneaking peeks while he ate, his pointed jawline, the way his collar rested open, bearing the sturdy curves of his collarbone and firm, strong chest build. At times, as she fed him, her fingers stayed a split second longer. When he did the same, she caught her breath for just an instant. Every second spun an unseen thread between them. tight with tension neither dared to verbalize. Leon, for all the thoughts swirling in his brain, did not move away. If a man spurns the overtures of a lovely woman such as herself, is he then a man? He joked to himself, pleased with his own logic. Apart from, I'd be dishonest if I said I didn't get pleasure out of it. Later, the dinner approached its conclusion. Leon leaned back a little, his hand resting on the bed, full, not just in belly but in spirit. Rhea smiled, moving elegantly, and started to load the dishes on the trolley. I'll take this back to the kitchen. You rest here, Daddy. He nodded, his golden eyes appreciating her. But before she moved away, she bent and left a soft kiss on his cheek. He stiffened. Her lips were warm. Tenderness crept into him. It wasn't seductive. It wasn't lust. It was loving. Leon blinked, paralyzed for a moment. His cheek still felt the presence of her mouth. It was the first kiss from a girl in his lifetime. Yes, in his last lifetime. He was still a virgin, of course, body and soul. He stared at her. She smiled, teasing but sincere. Watching her smile innocently and exit the room, a memory came to mind of the old Leon. The memory of the old Leon came to mind. Rhys frequently kissed his cheeks to express affection, and he had always interpreted it as innocent. The door closed softly behind her. The room grew silent. Leon stood, creeping toward window, the curtains drawn around him like the wings of a dark angel. The bite of the night swept across his bare chest, causing the material of his open shirt to wave softly. One hand rested upon the edge of the window, golden eyes watching out into the great sky beyond. Two moons hung like silver and sapphire sentinels in the heavens. One was large and radiant with a pale white glow, the Serenity Moon. The other, smaller, sparkled with a faint blue glow, the Secrets Moon. The stars shone idly across the black velvet night sky, as though hearing his thoughts. This life, this body, it is mine now. In my last life, I just lived. He drew a slow breath. But this existence, this one is mine, and I'll live it on my terms. No shackles, no regrets. His mind grew keener, more pointed. From the experiences of the previous Leon and the insights provided by the system, he'd started comprehending exactly how expansive the universe of Galvia really was. A big and fragmented continent conquered by four mighty empires, each dedicated to a different divinity, the four goddesses. The Empire of Light, the Empire of Water, the Empire of Terra, and the Empire of Blaze. These four empires were the actual rulers of the world, governed the center of civilization, imposing law, economy, making final decisions, engaging in large-scale wars, making and breaking alliances. But among them lived small kingdom, sects and cult like jewels or thorns based on their perspective, were small kingdoms, independent but influenced by the waves of power. Moonstone was one such kingdom. If I desire to ascend, to claim this world, I must start here. With Moonstone, I must claim it as my own. But that was merely the tip. The system had spoken of lost peoples, ancient races who dwelled apart, alone in the distant reaches of Galvia. Things less than human, remnants of bygone times, unblemished by empire or faith. And they were not fragile. Their bloodlines, their powers, their truths, if wielded, could shift the balance of the world itself. Leon's jaw tightened, eyes squinting. To conquer Galvia, I have to control the kingdoms, depose the empires, and forge a new one, and bend the forgotten to my command. His desires churned like storm clouds in his eyes. Power, kingdom, faith, desire. He would claim them all as his own. But before his mind plunged further into his thoughts, click, the door creaked open once more. He spun around, and the view stood him still. Her crimson temptation. As soon as Leon looked away from the window, lost in thought with the twin moons watching over him, the quiet was broken by the creak of his door opening like a knife through silk. He scowled and moved instinctively in the direction of the noise, became frozen. His breath was trapped. A barefoot girl stepped inside, her padded feet making quiet contact with the frigid floor. Crimson tresses fell past her shoulders in a river of flame, glittering beneath the silver eye of the moon. Her eyes, rich, mesmerizing pools of scarlet, met his, and for a moment, time itself paused to breathe. Rus, Leon breathed, his own voice reduced to a mere whisper as his throat grew parched. And he caught sight of what she was wearing. She had on a black nightgown. No, war was too tame a word. The fabric was scarcely clinging to her skin, wrapping around her luscious curves and drawing out every incline, every hollow. Her cleavage overflowed softly from the low-cut front. The nightgown stuck to her generous bust, defining the gentle rise of her breasts. The dress was slit high on her thigh, and Leon could see creamy, unblemished skin that left his mouth dry without delay. Leon's breath caught in his throat. His heart pounded, and he stared, nearly forgetting to speak. What the hell is she wearing? No, what is she doing here dressed like that? His heart skipped a beat, then another. Heat coursed through him in spite of his attempt to remain calm. Rus. He stuttered slightly, the words struggling to come out of his suddenly parched throat. What are you doing here now in this time? She stopped at the doorway, hands behind her back. Then, slowly, nervously, she curled her fingers around and started fidgeting, wrapping her index fingers around each other, eyes lowered. She chewed on her lip. I wanted to sleep with you tonight. Daddy. Leon blinked. He did not mishear. The room was as quiet as a grave, but his mind rang like thunder with what she said. What? He asked, blinking rapidly. Why would you? She fidgeted once more, nibbling on her lower lip before she looked up. Yesterday, you fell ill. You were out cold today the whole day. It frightened me. I don't want that to happen again. If I sleep next to you, then, if something happens, I'll be there. Her voice shook a little, genuine, anxious. But her eyes, they contained something beyond concern. Buried beneath the surface of concern was a glimmer of want, a hunger she attempted to conceal. Leon saw, and he knew it. His head spun back to the inherited memories from the past Leon. How Rus had slipped into his bed at night, feigning worry and fear, clinging to him. How she'd always loved him, to the point of being obsessed. The old Leon would have feigned ignorance, would have smiled politely and pushed her away, as he had on all the other nights when she'd attempted to slip into his bed. Think you believe that's all I want, Rus? He whispered to himself. And then, ding! A mechanical bell sounded clearly in his mind. Mission triggered. Fuck Rus Moonwalker. Objective. Fuck Rus Moonwalker, utterly yours. Reward. Eye of Judge, 20 black points. System shop unlocked. Warning. Mission failure will lead to disablement of Touch of Charm. Time limit, 15 days. The hell? A fuck mission with her? He thought, widening his eyes. This system not reserved at all. His prior application of points flashed across his mind. 10 points for all stats reset to 10, then +6 stamina, +2 vitality, +2 agility. But this bonus, I have discerning. He wasn't familiar with skill, and now, those 20 extra points hung there in front of him. And the system store unlocked? He couldn't keep his back turned. Nevertheless, isn't such a mission improper? He queried mentally, brows furrowed. System. Missions fulfill the host's secret wishes and long-term benefits. Stop denying your truth. Accept it. TC bastard system, he growled to himself. But it wasn't wrong. Not completely. He couldn't deny it to himself. Rus was a temptation he would not mind succumbing to. He coveted her. All of her. Daddy, Rus called, tilting her head. Leon shook out of his reverie. He blinked and glanced at her. Her eyes were worried. What are you staring at the air? She asked softly, advancing another step. Are you all right? Leon blinked and remembered, she can't perceive the system interface. Only I can. Nothing, sweetheart, he replied, attempting a smile. Just spaced out. Rus looked at him intently, as if attempting to pierce the facade, then slowly nodded. So, can I sleep with you tonight? She inquired, voice soft. Please. Leon halted. Her voice was pure, but he noticed the blazing inferno in her crimson eyes. This wasn't about protection or love. She craved more. He breathed sharply and with a smile said finally, Of course, dear. Rus blinked in astonishment. He could see she had not anticipated him to agree. not after the previous denials. But then her lips spread in a slow, warm smile. She glowed like the rising sun. Her breath caught, and her cheeks flushed as a radiant smile sprang to her face. Really? Leon laughed quietly, observing her glow. Really? She ran towards him, arms spread wide. The unadulterated joy and elation in her eyes were pure, real joy. As she rushed, Leon could not help but observe how her breasts jiggled under the thin cloth, the shape of her nipples pushing gently against his chest. His throat dried up once more, and then she embraced him tightly, soft, warm, tempting. Her body against his, she was pressed flush, and he could sense her heart pounding. Or was it his? He coughed lightly to gain control. Okay, dear, let's get into the bed. She laughed. I'm okay, Daddy. They climbed into the big bed together. Leon reclined on his side, taking care to maintain even breathing. Rias curled into him, pressing close. Very close. She curled into him immediately, her soft curves molding perfectly against his side, her thigh draped over his like a silken ribbon. Then, her ass shifted, slowly, teasingly, pressing deeper into his hip, grinding with feather-light pressure. Leon stiffened. Literally. Her silk nightgown had crept up, exposing the creamy tops of her thighs and the curve of her bare ass. The warmth of her skin seeped into him, encircling his senses like a drug. The smell of her skin, sweet and floral, filled his nostrils, and he could feel her breath on his neck. His jaw clenched. She was so warm, so soft, and so perilously close to waking the beast within him. Daddy, she whispered, her voice shaking, exposed, but with something darker, needier. Yes, he replied, his voice tight, keeping the thunder in his chest at bay. Can I sleep like this? She breathed, snuggling in closer still, her lips grazing his neck. It feels safe. Leon swallowed the lump forming in his throat. Sure, like this. But she didn't let up. Her hips moved again, slower this time, more intentional, her ass bearing down on his manhood. Once, twice, rolling her hips like she didn't know what she was doing. But she did, and Leon sensed it. Sensed the heat, the tension, the sheer need bubbling beneath her words. His manhood, confined under her hips, pulsed with aching pressure. It strained against the material of his pants, nudging into her soft flesh. She gasped softly when she felt it, but didn't pull away. If anything, she pushed further in. He could sense the contours of her body pressing against his, soft, warm, welcoming. His pulse thumped, his body blazed, and then, without thinking, he activated Touch of Charm. The instant it was active, her body trembled against his. Her breath hitched in her throat. "Aya," she whimpered, hips spastically jerking. My body feels funny." Leon wrapped his arm around her waist, drawing her closer. Her flesh was warm velvet, silky and shaking under his hand. He leaned in, lips brushing against her ear. "Rias, do you even have a clue what you're doing?" She shook. "I just wanted to be close. I love you so much. But you're leaning on me like that." He breathed, lips tracing down her neck. "You're not a little girl anymore, Rias." "That I know," she whispered. "I don't want to be. Not with you." Her words sent flame licking down his spine. He hesitated. For just a moment. His heart was pounding against his chest. For all that he'd been through, despite all that he'd done, he felt like a teenager again. A boy at war with his nerves, on edge and wanting. Everything. But he didn't let it show. He couldn't. He was her anchor now, her daddy. And she was melting at his touch. Slowly, slowly, he moved his hand up her belly. Her soft flesh quivered under his fingers, muscles dancing as if they'd never felt a man's hand before. She breathed softly and didn't push him away. His hand found her chest, enveloping the fullness of her breast through the thin silk. It was warm, heavy, so real. Her nipple was already erect, protruding through thin fabric like an urgent secret. He rubbed with his thumb, watching it contract, tense, more sensitive. "NNH, Daddy," she panted, voice heavy with craving. He tweaked gently. She bucked toward him, her thighs clamping. Her breath was short. unstable. Sensitive, aren't you? He breathed, lips along her ear. Your body's giving everything away. I can't help it. It feels too good. He pushed the gown up again, his hands slipping underneath it. Her naked skin touched his fingers. And when he touched her nipple once more, skin to skin, her moan was music. On. D-Daddy. She writhed in his arms, her ass grinding straight into his throbbing manhood. He groaned silently, holding her closer, his control shattering. Her heat, her smell, it was all-encompassing. Leon's other hand moved down, caressing the curve of her waist, to her hips, lower still, sketching the curve of her ass. His fingers tightened. Her breath caught. She was squirming now, her body frantically needing more. Her leg wrapped around his, holding him fast. Her movements no longer shy, hungry. He kissed the nape of her neck. She shuddered, moaning softly. Your body's begging me, he breathed darkly. You came in here with no underwear, didn't you? She didn't reply. She didn't have to. His hand moved down between her legs. Heat. Wet. His fingers brushed her folds, and she was dripping. Her juices stuck to him like honey, slick and hot. Rus, he growled. You're soaked. Her face burned red. I wanted you to touch me. Leon's chest expanded and contracted with deep breath. He stroked her slowly, teasing her entrance, sliding up to her throbbing bud, then back again, parting her folds tenderly, lovingly. She shook with fury. Her hands clenched the sheets. D-Daddy, I can't. Her voice dissolved into a sob of ecstasy. Her body stiffened. And then, she came. Her thighs clamped. Her hips jerked. A soft cry burst from her lips, raw, broken, lovely. Her juices overflowed his hand, warm and wet, drenching his fingers. He didn't halt. He continued stroking her, slower now, allowing her to ride the wave till the end. And when she fell against him, panting, shivering, he wrapped his arms around her. Sweetheart, he breathed, pushing her hair aside. You came so hard, for my fingers alone. She whimpered against his chest, lips parted. I wanted this for so long. He looked at her, dripping with sweat, flushed, trembling lips, body radiating from the core. Her eyes opened, red and crazy with lust. She leaned up slowly, lips inches from his. But just before she might kiss him, he held up a finger, putting it against her lips gently. Not tonight. Her eyes went wide. But why? Leon grinned, though his heart was still racing. His hand was dripping with her juices. His body throbbed for more. But he whispered, You're not ready. Next time, I want everything. She pouted adorably. Meanie. He laughed low. You'll thank me later. She settled into his chest again, but this time it was different. Her leg hung completely over his hip. His hand remained between her thighs, lightly resting against her wet heat. Her own hand gripped his wrist, holding him there, as if she couldn't stand to let it go. She wrapped him tightly, in a handful of blankets, red bone trembling, her cheek to the beat of his heart. She pressed into his chest with a satisfied sigh. I'm not leaving. So, I'm sleeping here anyway. Good. He breathed in her hair. Because I'm not letting you go now. And so they slept, tangled, her thigh across his hand cradled between her thighs, and desire burning like embers beneath their skin. He glanced down at the girl in his arms, her breath now soft and steady. Sleep well, sweetheart. Today was merely the beginning. He whispered, and they both slept, tangled in temptation, bound by unspoken desires. Morning bath. The sun's early rays streamed through the high arched window, painting golden lines on the silken sheets. The gentle heat brushed against Rias's naked skin, causing her to move slightly under the blankets. Leon was already awake. He lay on his side and observed her. Her scarlet hair fanned across the pillow like a blazing halo. Her light lashes trembled, and a tiny, pleased sigh escaped her mouth as she opened her eyes slowly. Those eyes, deepest crimson, burning with longing and flame, met his. For an instant she blinked, dazed. Then recollection smote. Like lightning. Last night, Her skin flushed at the memories returned. His hand, her sobs, the ecstasy, the tears of bliss she'd believed she'd never be permitted to cry. And most of all, his acceptance. She softly gasped, tugging on the sheets, feeling suddenly embarrassed. Leon smirked. "Good morning, sweetheart." Her eyes opened in shock. "D-Daddy." He smoothed the curl of hair from behind her ear, his hand remaining on her cheek. "You slept so peacefully. I couldn't look away." Rias bit down hard on her lip, her cheeks aflame. "I thought perhaps it was a dream." He drew closer, touching his lips to her forehead. "No dream. Now on, every inch of yours mine. Only mine." Her spine chilled. Her mind whirled madly. Pictures of their initial encounter running through her mind. She'd been nothing back then. A hollow-cheeked girl in the street, begging for a crumb. She'd glimpsed him, a nobleman with an icy stare and an overpowering presence. But in a crowd of 1,000, he alone hadn't passed her by. He'd stood still, and in that single instant, her destiny was forged. He brought her in, not as a maid or a servant, but as a daughter. Or so he said, but she never was his daughter. Not really. To her, from the beginning, he was always everything to her. Defender. Addiction. The unattainable son she yearned to adore with every fiber of her being. Through the years, her infatuation grew into something sinister, something profound, something desperate. But every time she dared to get near him to let him know, he politely rebuffed her. But last night, finally he welcomes her. She leaned forward, her fingers shaking as she touched his chest. "Thank you for this gift, for finally noticing me." Leon's face softened, yet desire still danced in his eyes. "You were always going to be mine. Perhaps I am silly before don't see and didn't want to accept you. But no more. You belong to me now, forever." She beamed, flushed and delighted. "I'm happy you finally accept me." Then a quick gasp slipped from her lips, and her train of thought was derailed as she felt it suddenly. A gentle pressure, like something warm and thick, glided between her legs, opening her folds softly, entering her womanhood. Her eyes went wide. "Ah," she breathed, body arching. Her thighs gripped. Her eyes went wide as she realized. His fingers were moving between her legs again, tracing her folds with slow, teasing strokes. "D-Daddy," she gasped, shuddering. Leon's smile grew wider, voice husky and taunting. "Already so wet. What are you thinking about, sweetheart?" She wiggled, face hidden in his shoulder, moaning softly. "Why you? You're too handsome, and—" "Sweet liar," he whispered, his fingers tracing between her folds with excruciating gentleness. She screamed, legs shaking, breathing in ragged gasps. Her body shook as his fingers stroked within her, slow, curling, knowing exactly where she was most vulnerable. She thrust into him, nails digging deep into his back. "You're still so sensitive," he whispered, lips against her ear. "You're quite warm here." He breathed, his fingers moving in slow, circular motions. "Tight, soft, your folds keep clinging to my fingers. Greedy little thing." She moaned once more, shivering. "It feels too good." He breathed into her ear. "You want more?" She nodded wildly, her legs spreading wider, opening to him. His hand manipulated her slowly, expertly, until her back curled and she gasped, her entire body tensing. "Ah, Daddy, I am going to—" Her hips convulsed, and she came. A stifled cry rang out into the morning air as her body convulsed, a second climax washing over her. He held her through it, patient and satisfied. When her breathing returned to normal, Leon slowly withdrew his hand, bringing it up before her scarlet eyes. "See this, sweetheart?" he whispered. Her eyes fell. Her breath caught. His fingers were wet with her moisture. "It's embarrassing," she mumbled. But even then, her eyes fell lower, where the outline of his arousal bulged beneath his robe, hard and pulsating. She stretched out tentatively, her fingers skimming against him. "You must be hurting, Daddy." Leon's jaw flexed as her hand closed around him through the robe. "It's okay. I'll get through it." She shook her head. "No, let me take care of you." Before he could talk, she sat up, but he was quicker, picking her up in his arms as if she were weightless. "Wah!" she cried out, shocked. Leon got up from the bed, holding her close in a princess carry, her soft body against his bare chest, her arms wrapped around him instinctively. Her face changed from shock to happiness. She enjoyed being carried this way. Where are we going?" she asked in a breathless voice. He grinned. "You need a bath, obviously. My little messmaker must be washed." Her cheeks blazed. "Daddy." They entered the lavishly appointed marble bathroom. Steam already clouded the air, rising from the sunken tub, which glowed with soft, enchanted heat. Leon put her down carefully on the rim of the tub and started to undress her. He pulled the silk off her shoulders, watching it glide down her body. Her smooth skin shone in the dim light. Her breasts, round, full, capped with pink, rose and fell with every breath. Her waist was small, hips large, legs smooth and muscular. Between her legs, her womanhood was smooth-shaven, pink, and still faintly shining with past arousal. Leon hesitated, gazing at her. "You're beautiful," he breathed. Rhea swallowed hard but smiled. "Then it's only fair I get to see you too." Leon laughed, opening his robe. As it glided away, his chiseled form was revealed. Wide chest, muscular, hard and lower. His fat, 6-inch member in arousal stood erect, veined and throbbing. Rhea breathed softly, eyes on it. "You're so—" She swallowed, big. Leon grinned on her remark. Then he got into the bath and extended his hand. She accepted it, stepping into the water with him. As she settled onto his lap, her back to his chest, his length against her ass and outer covering of her womanhood, she squirmed a little, causing him to groan. The water lapped softly around them, flavored with herbs and steam. In a moment, Rhea turned around and overlapped his lap, her scarlet eyes wide with something between nervousness and desire. "Daddy, I want to help you," she said shyly. "Can I try?" Leon raised an eyebrow. "Try what?" She nibbled on her lip. Then hesitantly, she slid down in the water between his legs. Leon's breath caught. When he witnessed this sex scene, Rhea reached out, nervously, trembling fingers, and leaned against his penis nervously as it was the first time for her. She leaned forward, lips pressed a kiss to the tip of him. Soft, timid. Leon gasped, his jaw clenched. "Rhea," he murmured, hoarse voice. "Did I do it right?" she asked, ruby eyes looking up. He couldn't talk. He nodded. She was emboldened, opening her lips slowly and taking more of him into her hot mouth. Unskilled at first, her tongue danced over him, her head bobbing with shy hunger. Any little move, trembling, loving, crazed, sent shivers coursing through his nerves. Leon's hand lost itself in her hair, weaving through the wet ruby locks. "Just like that. Good girl." Her lips moved more quickly now, cheeks hollow with struggle, attempting to please him the best way she knew how. He groaned, deep and animalistic. She was his forbidden fruit, and she had offered herself to him with everything inside of her. Then, in a couple more minutes, Leon's breath caught. His hold on her hair tightened a bit. "Rhea, I'm going to—" She didn't draw back. She took it, his release, without so much as a flinch. And when she stepped back, licking her lips with a mixture of innocence and wicked pride, Leon was speechless. "You taste warm, sort of bitter but sweet," she said, leaning her head with a flushed smile. He chuckled softly. "You're trouble, you know that?" She crawled back into his lap, arms around his neck, breasts against his chest. "Do you feel better now?" He nodded, his arms going around her waist. "Much." But then his hand wandered lower, cupping her from behind, fingers brushing against the silky folds of her womanhood beneath the water. "You helped me, sweetheart. Shouldn't I pay you back?" Rhea's breath was caught in her throat. "D-Daddy," her breath was caught. Her scarlet eyes darted up to his, wide and unsure, but blazing with desire. "But," she nodded slightly. Leon's breathing was unsteady as he led her to sit on the edge of the bathtub, water pouring off her curves. She shivered at the touch of the cool air on her skin, but it was nothing to the blaze that was rising inside her. He knelt between her thighs, pounding hard, and he spoke in mind. "This is my first time viewing a woman like this. Not in this world, but ever. In his previous life, he'd perished a virgin. The body he currently occupied had erectile dysfunction, and so it had never experienced such desire. But now, her smell doused him. Sweet, raw, mad-making. Rhys shuddered, legs spreading open at his soft cajoling. She was so open, so bare, and yet no fear showed in her eyes. Only trust, and something more, adoration. "D-Daddy," she breathed. He looked into her eyes. "You're lovely." Then he leaned forward, kissing the inside of her thigh. Her breath caught. Another kiss, nearer. And then, she moaned softly as his lips touched her most intimate spot. His tongue danced with hesitant exploration initially, hungry, probing, savoring her. Her legs trembled, and her fingers wrapped in his hair. Leon was gone. The flavor, the warmth, the way her body responded, twitching, gasping, holding on to him as if he were the sole firm ground in her tempest. His frustrations in the life he'd left behind were forgotten. Here now he was free of weakness. He was master, and she, his dear, crazed little flame, was his to adore. Rhys moaned, head lolling back, chest heaving and falling with each tremulous breath. Daddy, I can't. I'm gonna." And then she shattered. Her body arched, a cry escaping her lips as waves of pleasure washed through her. Leon held her, drinking in every drop, every twitch, until her breathing steadied and her hold on him relaxed. He drew back, meeting her dazed eyes. Then he leaned forward, brushing away wet clumps of auburn hair from her face, his thumb remaining lightly on her cheek. She was warm-skinned, her eyes quivering. And at that instant, as she came forward, their lips touched, soft, uncertain, untried. It wasn't hurried or uncontrolled. It was slow, longingly slow. Their mouths collided like homecoming lovers reunited in a fantasy, gentle and seeking. Rhys whimpered at the kiss, her fingers constricting in his soggy hair. Her mouth had a taste of desire and sugar, her form melting into him. Leon pulled her nearer, furthering the kiss, and her mouth parted with ease for him. Tongues sparred, breaths intermixed, and the throb between them intensified. And when at last they retreated, both of them panting, she smiled softly. Even so, she panted, eyes wide, dazed with happiness and surprise. "D-Daddy," she breathed, voice shaking with emotion. "That was nice," she breathed. Leon smiled, forehead against hers. "Yeah, it was. I'm so happy," she breathed. Leon kissed her forehead affectionately and smiled on her remark. She gazed up at him, eyes shining. "Then you're not going to leave me, right?" He smiled, pushing her dripping hair back. "I won't. You're my little devil, and I'll love you till the end of the world." Rhys smiled, tears falling even as she softly giggled. "Then I'll love you forever, Daddy." He nodded, pulling her into his arms. "Much." They lay like that a little longer in the tub, just breathing in each other. The heat of the water held around them like a chrysalis, their hearts pounding a little quicker, a little harder. When the water chilled and the moment passed gently, Leon picked her up in his arms, princess style, her wet flesh against his chest as she breathed softly. The maid surprise. Steam still clung to their skin as they stepped back into Leon's quarters, the morning sun dyeing golden rays across the opulent room. Rhys entered first, her fiery red hair cascading over her nude back like liquid flame. Her skin, dewy with their hot bath, glimmered under the soft light. Behind her, Leon trailed behind. He too, equally nude, his golden eyes glimmered lazily, half-lidded, following the sway of her hips with open admiration. But then Rhys stopped in his tracks. Her smile wavered. Her eyes darted around the room, then blinked twice. Daddy." Leon cocked his head, lips curling up in a relaxed smile. "What is it, sweetheart?" She scowled. "I just remembered something. I don't have anything to wear in your room." She spoke softly. "So I changed. Into you." Leon blinked, and then raised an eyebrow with a roguish grin. "So, you decided against your plans and didn't bring anything?" Rhys pouted cutely. cheeks puffed out. I didn't plan on staying overnight. Like this. Leon laughed, eyes sparkling with mischievous playfulness. Why don't we just live like this? Naked and unrestricted. You look too heavenly to be covered up. I wouldn't mind seeing you like this all the time. Rhea smiled, unapologetic and fearless, her self-assurance in full flower. If I had the authority to command a world, I might just accept. She leaned forward, her naked breasts grazing his chest, soft, warm, charged. Her lips were inches from his ear. But you, Duke Daddy, have responsibilities to attend to. And I have my own responsibilities. Leon frowned slightly at the reminder, wincing inwardly. Shit, how I forgot. I'm a duke now. But he only laughed on the outside and wrapped his arms around her hips, drawing her near. But what if this duke wants to take the rest of the day off? For private affairs, he asked in a low, seductive voice, fingers tracing the small of her back. Rhys chuckled. Then, the young miss would be inclined to skip her duties as well. Knock, knock. A quiet knock resonated throughout the room, and Lord Leon, I am coming in, entered a melodious but stern-sounding voice outside. The door creaked open before they could even do anything, and a woman around her late 20s, she did have an atmosphere of calm maturity. Her silky, long purple hair was pulled up into a sophisticated bun, with only a few strands framing her stunning face. Her violet eyes were bright and wise, but as she entered the room and her eyes fell on the sight before her, Lord Leon and the Lady Rhea fully naked, her composure snapped. She is Arya. Arya stood still. Then she spotted them. Lord Leon, bare-legged and tall like a god of beauty, and the little miss, Rhys. Naked, she hugged her breasts against his muscular chest in flushed intimacy. Arya halted in mid-step. Her eyes opened wide, a fleeting spasm of shock crossing her normally stoic face. This was not the first time she'd seen her young mistress attempt to seduce the lord. Rhys had always been forward with her affections, pressing herself against him, whispering sweet promises in his ear, even once sitting on his lap in the library. But Leon had always held back, always maintained the line. Until now, Arya's eyes fell lower. Her purple eyes fell on him, on the heavy, thick length between Leon's thighs still half-hard from their mutual bath. And she froze. A gentle gasp escaped her before she turned hastily away, cheeks flushing palely pink. Leon saw and cleared his throat, dispelling the tense hush. Arya. The noise brought her out of her daze. She pulled herself up into neat, practiced motion, attempting to regain her composure. And my lord, forgive me. I should have made myself known more loudly. I can come back later. But before she could turn around and leave, Rhea spoke out. Wait, Arya. The maid hesitated halfway through her step. Rhea, still naked, turned to her with a natural comfort, not minding her nudity. She didn't feel embarrassed, not in front of Arya. After all, this was Arya, the woman she trusted most after her father. Not just the head maid, but a sister figure. And apart from, there weren't any other men in the room. Just Arya and Leon. She didn't have any shame showing her body to Arya, because Arya had watched her grow from a shaking girl to a good woman. I don't have any clothes in Daddy's room, Rhea said nonchalantly, pushing her hair behind her ears. Would you mind getting me something from my wardrobe? Arya nodded, tone calm again. Of course, young Mississippi. I shall be right back. Rhea smiled warmly. Thanks, Arya. With a fluid nod, as she turned and left, Rhys leaned into Leon with a playful grin. Did you see how she stared at you? He raised an eyebrow. At me? MHM, Rhys purred. Yes, there. She pointed openly between his legs. She froze when she sees this godly manhood. Leon smiled, but remained quiet. As for a couple of minutes, Arya walked in with another outfit for Rhys. Leon was already in a dignified robe, gold embroidering, white, announcing him as the new duke over Moonwalker Domain. The robe hugged his shoulder majestically, opened decently at the chest to showcase just a preview. Rhys accepted the clothes from Arya with a smile. Thanks, she said, and then vanished into the changing room. Arya and Leon were left alone. The maid remained silent, her head lowered slightly. Leon cleared his throat. So, Arya, what brings you here? Arya stood up straight, eyes locked, professionalism regained. My lord, she said, a royal messenger has arrived from the palace. He's waiting in your study for you. Leon frowned. A messenger? So early? He raked through the inherited memories from the old Leon, but nothing registered. No major event, no anticipated summon. He nodded. All right, let's go. Before he could step, just then, Rhys reappeared, wearing the deep red robe, gold embroidery shining at the hem. The robe clung to her curves, her waist tightly cinched, and her long legs slipped out from beneath a small slit that crept up her thigh. She spun around. How do I look? Leon let out a low whistle. Like a goddess who's come down to tempt mortal men. She smiled, then leaned in close. Then, Daddy, her voice dropped to a sugary murmur. Don't you think I deserve a reward? He arched an eyebrow. And what would that be? A kiss. She pouted. For looking like a goddess. Leon laughed. You little devil. Before Arya could make a hasty retreat, Leon yanked Rhys into his arms and took her lips. Mouths moved slow and hungry, hands roving, her body sinking into his. She let out a low moan as his hand reached around to her ass, squeezed gently, then again, this time harder. When they finally broke apart, both were faintly breathless. Now happy, he inquired. Rhys smiled. Very much, Daddy. As he walked away, he bestowed one final teasing slap on her backside. She panted, red-cheeked. Leon turned to Arya. Let's go. The maid remained stunned once more, blinking furiously as she attempted to compose herself. Why, yes, my lord. She spoke, voice slightly too gentle. As they exited together, Rhys observed them leave, arms crossed over her chest, mischievous grin on her face. Daddy, you're really hyper in the morning. See if you can maintain that tonight. Her eyes glowed with mischievous menace as she moved out into the corridor, a wicked grin playing on her lips. An invitation of power. The hallway was immense, great enough to resound with the beat of his footsteps, and yet still quiet enough to envelop them in royal stillness. Highly polished obsidian floors seemed to stretch on forever under a vaulted ceiling where intricate silver etchings of moons and wolves danced. Gilded crescent moon-shaped chandeliers cast golden light upon the velvet-draped walls and the stained glass windows that splashed soft color across the floor. His golden eyes gulped the loveliness and potency chiseled into every block of the mansion. So, this is my house, the Moonwalker Estate. The title itself told with significance, noble, old, feared. He had not noticed it until now. When he transmigrated into this world last night, he had walked past the bedchamber. Up until now, he had stayed in his own room, drinking in the memories of the old Leon Moonwalker, memorizing the names, the locations, the history which now belonged to him. And most importantly, he had bonded further with the little girl who referred to him as father. His golden eyes darted from work to work, oil portraits of the former dukes, intricately decorated suits of armor shone off in alcoves, a mirror stretching floor to ceiling, framed in sapphire. Such things didn't exist in his world. No magic, no noble blood, no legacy. But this was his. And yet now, strolling these halls, he didn't feel like a fake. He walked like the rightful owner of this inheritance. Because I am. He strode with the confidence of a duke, shoulders back, steps deliberate. Yet in his mind, he felt a curious blend of pride and dreamlike wonder. This life is mine now. By his side marched Arya, his head maid, her footsteps as silent as moonlight. She would occasionally look at him through her lashes, her violet eyes catching brief glimpses of his sharp features, the gentle swaying of his dark hair with every step. A light blush spread over her pale cheeks. But Leon did not see. His mind lost in remembrance and wordless admiration for the grandeur of the estate. After a few turns, left, then right, then another left, they came to a large black door marked by the Moonwalker crest. Leon paused. He didn't hesitate or look confused. The path had come to him naturally. This is my study, he thought. The memories inherited by the former Leon were keen. He found his way around the mansion to be akin to strolling through a house he had lived in all his life, although he had only just arrived in that body yesterday. He opened the door. The Duke's study was lavish. A high window behind the central desk poured warm light over mahogany floors. Dark velvet curtains the color of midnight hung about the glass. High bookshelves that were filled to the brim with books stood against the walls, old, leather-bound books of history, magic, politics. A great silver and black desk dominated the center, inscribed with symbols of the Moonwalker family. Against the right wall, a sword hung above a cabinet full of precious scrolls. The air was filled with the smell of parchment and tea. And calmly sitting in front of the desk, drinking tea, was a middle-aged man. He was dressed in formal navy robes trimmed with silver, badge of the crown's peace envoy. His silver locks were pulled back tightly, and his dark eyes, piercing and serene, fell on Leon as the door slowly opened. He sprang up at once and turned with a respectful bow. Duke Leon Moonwalker, the man bowed respectfully, his voice rich and steady. Leon's gaze narrowed slightly, but he remained calm. The inherited memories verified it. This was Sir Harvin, the royal messenger of peace. A man the old Leon had seen several times at court in the past. Leon gave a slight nod, the edge of his lip curling upward in regal recognition. He moved forward and sat behind the desk, waving politely with one hand. "Be seated." Harvin nodded and sat again, resting his hands on top of his lap. Standing behind Leon, Arya remained quietly, her posture straight and respectful, yet her presence warm, like a flame that burned steadfastly behind him. "Your Grace," Harvin said, "His Majesty the King has invited you." Leon arched an eyebrow, curiosity flashing in his eyes. "Oh." From beneath his robe, Harvin produced a sealed letter, dark paper stamped with silver. A wax crescent moon seal indicated it was authentic. Leon took the letter, tracing his thumb over the royal crest. "The moon," he thought to himself. "So the king summons." He broke the seal and opened the letter. The handwriting was flowing and beautiful. "To the esteemed Duke of Moonwalker House, by command of His Majesty King Aurelian Moonlight, you are commanded to attend the grand coming-of-age ceremony of Her Royal Highness, Princess Lyra Moonlight, to be celebrated precisely 1 month from now at the Royal Palace in Moonspire. Your attendance is not merely requested, it is required. May the moon smile upon your journey. By royal decree." Leon breathed slowly, eyes narrowing. "Princess Lyra, sole heir to the throne, the Moonstone Kingdom's gem. And her ritual, it's no common ritual. It's one for a whole kingdom, honored like a festival." He folded the letter carefully, looking up to see Harvin regarding him with a soft smile. "A surprise invitation, maybe?" Harvin whispered. Leon's lips bent into a small smirk. "A strange one." He paused, then folded the letter up neatly and set it on his desk. "Very well. I shall be there. On time." Harvin bowed respectfully. "Then I shall notify His Majesty. Thank you for your time, Duke Leon. May the moonlight watch over you." Leon nodded, his face impassive. "Pass on my thanks to His Majesty for the invitation." Harvin stood up and departed, fading away behind the doors. As the door closed, silence once again descended upon the room. Rich, pensive, Leon settled back into his chair, tapping a single finger on the armrest. "If I were to assume leadership of the Moonstone Kingdom, this could be the ideal opening. One lone princess, one kingdom with no male heir." His mind raced, plotting, perilous, fascinated, and then whispered, "My lord," Arya's voice reminded, bringing him back. He turned, eyes landing on the purple-haired beauty, standing poised as a vision at dawn. He smiled softly. "Yes." Her cheeks flushed again at his look. "Before you start your duties, would you care for breakfast?" He blinked, caught off guard. In the pace of things, he had in fact forgotten. "I've not eaten," he mumbled. Arya smiled. "Shall I bring you fruit and tea here?" "That would be ideal," he responded, his voice smoother now. "Thank you, Arya." She curtsied, her silver hair flowing over her shoulders in a gleaming curtain of silk, and then moved away from the room toward the door. As she stepped away, Leon's eyes followed, helpless to do otherwise. Her hips moved with elegance under the restricting fabric of her uniform. Each step was poetry, each movement a taunt. For an instant, he imagined how those hips would feel under his grasp. And then, ding, a sharp mechanical bell chimed within his mind. System alert, new mission issued. Mission triggered. Fuck Arya, head maid of House Moonwalker. Objective, make Arya completely yours. Reward, sin of arousal, plus 20 black points. Warning, failure in mission will lead to disabling of touch of charm. Time limit, 20 days. Leon almost choked on his thoughts. What the F? He sat up a little straighter, eyes widening ever so slightly, heart pounding not from fear, but excitement. The system had just assigned him a mission once more, and his second target was Arya. She's beautiful, loyal, warm, and tantalizingly near. I was already planning on claiming her as my own. Slowly, thoroughly. The system simply validated what I already planned on doing. He exhaled slowly. His golden eyes sparkled with growing hunger. And he thinned now. The system tells me 20 days? I won't take that long. A slow, perilous smile crept over his lips. A smile that whispered of conquest, of control, of what was to come. A whiff of sweets. There had been a while since Arya departed the study. The room, where parchment rustled and the soft scratch of a quill pen had filled the air, had now descended into peaceful silence. The golden warmth of sun poured in through the tall window, bathing the sophisticated study in warm, almost religious light. Quiet hung, punctuated only by the gentle rustle of leaves outside the glass. Leon sat on a velvet-upholstered couch beside the arched window, one foot over the other, a finger pressed thoughtfully against his lips. His golden eyes, lost in the serenity of the estate's flower-filled garden. Exotic flowers danced in the wind, sky-petaled lilies that glimmered with a silvery blue tint, firethorns that moved like stars tipped with flame, and moon-blown vines that wandered loosely over stone walls. It was a piece made for a view, but peace would not endure. The gentle creak of wheels on marble broke the silence. Clink, clack. Leon's eyes slowly turned toward the noise. Arya had come back. She steered a silver trolley into the room, her body ethereal, almost regal. Her uniform hugged her body with infuriating accuracy, tightly around her round, full breasts, her small waist nipped in by the tight knot of her bodice. And when she leaned forward just an inch or so to navigate the trolley over an edge of carpet, her breasts moved with a subtle bounce, and Leon's gaze followed like magnets. He didn't even attempt to avert his eyes. Her bosom shook ever so slightly with emotion, a teasing, innocent offering that made Leon's lips twist into an inward smile. Arya sensed the pressure of his eyes immediately. Although her face stayed tranquil, a gentle flush blossomed on her cheeks like rose petals kissed by sunrise. "My lord," she spoke softly, standing tall with poise. Leon kept silent at first. He just looked. She stopped in front of him and slowly lifted the lid of the trolley. Underneath was a refined spread, a steaming pot of dusk petal tea and a carefully arranged tray of foreign fruits. Skyberries, blue and cool as starlight, famous for their gentle sweetness. Flame figs, with red flesh and a hint of heat that set the tongue aflame. And moon melons, pale white, fragile fruits that melted on the tongue like icy fog. Arya started preparing the tea with careful elegance. The aroma of ground dusk petal leaves in the room, flower-like, soothing, nearly drugging. Her hands were flowing, pouring water into dainty porcelain cups, stirring in perfect cadence. As Arya started making the tea, her actions were deliberate and refined. Pouring scalding water over ground dusk petal leaves, she stirred carefully, her fingers precise and light. Leon observed every second with a subtle smile. She is truly a vision. Arya, on the other hand, tried to suppress the flutter in her chest that caused Arya's heart to beat faster. She could feel it, like warmth tracing on her skin. Why is he staring at me like that? Like I'm not a maid, but a lamb? Her heart skipped when she thinks. And he's the predator. But she kept her composure, barely. Her cheeks, however, betrayed her. The soft flush deepened. She handed him the tea with a practiced smile. "Please, my lord." Leon took the cup, brushing her fingers ever so slightly. He savored it, taking a slow sip. Delicious. This is best tea I ever have, Arya." Her heart hammered louder, but she bowed her head, biting back a smile. Thank you, my lord." Still turned away from him, she started peeling one of the flame figs. Her hand shook a bit. Something about the way he looked at her made it difficult to breathe. Then his voice broke into the air again, low and velvet smooth. "Arya." She turned around, still holding the plate of cut fruit. "Yes, my lord." He smiled. "Can you feed me by your hands?" She froze. The plate nearly slipped from her hand. "Oh, Lord, what was that?" "I said," Leon repeated, his voice as smooth as silk. "Will you feed me? With your hands, Arya." The flush in her cheeks turned to crimson, but she did not refuse. Her lips parted, then pressed shut. Slowly, her hand moved toward a piece of fruit, shaking in restraint. She lifted it towards him. Just as she could bring it to his lips, Leon's hand shot out for her wrist, quickly, and softly wrapped itself around her wrist. Arya gasped. "Ah!" A shocked gasp escaped her as she lurched forward, only to find herself now sitting firmly on his lap. "Oh, Lord Leon," she squeaked, her eyes wide. His voice was low, but she could hear it vibrate through his chest. "I believe. This way you'll feed me correctly." Her soft hips lay on his lap, and he could feel the hard shape emerging beneath her hips. Her breath caught when her legs straddled one side of his thigh, and her body shook a little from the shock of the closeness. Blood flushed her cheeks. Her heart drummed like thunder. She gazed down at the fruit in her hand. With a nod from him, she lifted it once more, her hand still trembling. Leon parted his lips just a little, taking the fruit, but as he did, his lips slowly closed over her fingers. He sucked gently. Her breath caught. A shiver ran up her spine. Her heart pounded in her chest. Her breathing was shallow. Her thighs tensed involuntarily. And she recites in her heart, "Don't moan, don't moan." Leon grinned at her response, eyes sparkling. "Your hand is also sweet too, Arya." She bit her lip, blushing, but she presented him with another piece, and once again, he ate it the same manner, teasingly slow, warm lips grazing against her fingertips. His hand wrapped around her waist, sitting on her thin body, drawing her barely closer. His other hand rested close to her chest, below. With some bite, he whispered, voice sultry, "Arya, this fruit is a little bland." Her brows furrowed in panic. "And no, my lord, it's the best batch, fresh from the eastern groves." He chuckled, shaking his head. "You don't believe me?" She blinked. "I." He picked up a flame fig slice, held it to her lips. "Then take a bite. Judge for yourself." Her cheeks burned. She hesitated, then gradually opened her mouth, her soft, cherry-red lips encircling the fruit. She bit into it lightly. Then Leon leaned forward and took a bite from the same piece on the other side of her. Their lips met in the middle. Arya's eyes widened. Then, his mouth crushed down onto hers. Her stifled gasp dissolved into the kiss. His lips moved slowly at first, tasting, teasing. And then he used his charm skill, touch of charm. Arya's resistance dissolved. Her hands clung to his shoulders. Her eyes fluttered closed. The kiss grew deeper. Her lips shook, but he led her, slowly, then with passion. Their tongues touched, hesitant at first, then fighting softly, sloppily, with increasing hunger. Leon's hand crept up and filled one of her soft breasts. She moaned against his mouth, helpless, aflame. They broke only when her lungs screamed for air. She sat there, breathless, still in his lap, eyes glazed, lips red, and kiss swollen. Leon leaned in close, his lips brushing against her ear. "That," Leon whispered, his breath against her cheek, "was the sweetest fruit I've ever tasted." Arya shuddered under him, her purple eyes wide and glinting as they met his golden stare. Her lips parted, but nothing emerged. Her heart thudded like a drum in her chest. Then she felt it. Something hard. Against her hips. A sharp gasp escaped her throat as her body automatically shifted, rubbing against the hard heat under his trousers. Her cheeks flamed. My lord. Leon said nothing. He didn't have to. The expression in his eyes was darker now, ravenous, feral. His hand crept up, tight fingers molding the rise of her breast beneath the thin material of her maid's uniform. His other hand closed over her hip beneath the skirt, drawing her tighter. The gentle molding of her flesh sent shivers through her. She gasped once more as his fingers curled up, pushing the weight of her breast up ever so slightly. The feeling, unplanned, daring, ran electricity down her spine. "And my lord, this is—" Her protest dissolved at his fingers' soft squeeze. "Wrong," he breathed, his lips against her ear. "Then tell me why your heart pounds like this." His thumbs swept across the top of her breast, still covered but hard. The pressure, the friction, it took her breath away. Her back arched on its own, her breath snagging in a soft moan. It wasn't shame anymore. It was lust. Shameful, forbidden, overwhelming lust. "I can feel it," he whispered. "This body of yours, so truthful. It doesn't lie like your lips do." Arya whimpered, her voice barely above a whisper. "My lord, someone may see." Leon leaned closer, his tongue tracing the curve of her ear, sending a hot jolt through her core. "Then be quiet," he growled softly. "And obey, my little maid." His hand slipped under her skirt, slow and deliberate. When his fingers found the delicate lace of her panties, he paused, feeling the unmistakable heat beneath. A smirk tugged at his lips. "So damp already?" he whispered. "TSK. I hadn't known my maid was so perverse little thing." Her gaze flew open. "And no, my lord, I—" But her voice cracked when he turned her over so easily onto the velvet couch. He pinned her down, her skirt up, legs parted slightly as he lay between them. His weight made her body heat. He kissed her, not gently, but hungrily, lips slamming into hers, gobbling up her gasp, savoring the confusion, the hunger, the fear and longing in one quivering breath. His lips traveled from her mouth to her jaw, down her neck, across her collarbone. Each kiss caused her breath to catch. Each bite sent shivers through her frame. Leon's fingers moved down the front of her uniform, the buttons flying open one by one with little clicks. Click, click, click. Every note resonated through the air, slow and methodical, as if removing more than mere clothing, peeling away her defenses, her hesitation, her shame. Her chest heaved, rising and falling with labored breaths as the final button was released, the open fabric revealing the rise of her breasts under the lacy black bra. He didn't hurry. He simply allowed his golden eyes to drink in the view, how the curves stretched against the bra, how every breath caused them to jiggle ever so slightly. "So soft?" And "all mine," he whispered, voice like liquid honey. His fingers followed the bra's edge before slipping beneath it, lifting slowly. The fabric crept upward, SHFF, until her breasts spilled out, pale and yielding, capped with flushed, pink nipples already stiff from waiting. She whimpered and automatically scooted to tuck herself under cover, but Leon pinned her wrists above her head, and his power was so easy. "No hiding," he said softly. "Let me appreciate my little maid." And he bent to press his head onto her stomach. His mouth molded around one nipple. "MMH!" Arya cried out, wide eyes, back bowing, as he tongued her softly. "SLLRP. SLRRRP." The noises were slow, wet, rhythmic. His tongue darted over the bud before sucking it deeper, lips closing around it with a soft pop as he let it go, only to switch sides and repeat. "Oh, my lord, don't—" "Too good," he taunted, his breath hot against her wet flesh. "Then feel it all." He bit down gently, only enough to make her shiver, and then healed the piquancy with his tongue, tracing the puffy nub. "HNNN," she whimpered, her voice a fractured song of shame and want. He stared at her, entranced by the way her breasts heaved, how her eyes flickered, how her thighs clamped shut. His hand crept down, sliding down her thigh and yanking her skirt down. SHFF. It slipped over her hips, exposing her lacy underpants and the shining wetness between her thighs. He leaned back for a moment, gaze wandering over her flushed, half-naked, shivering, panting body. Please, don't look," she breathed, face ablaze. But he didn't heed her. His fingers gradually tugged her panties down, revealing the dainty, pink folds below. Her smell assaulted him, a sweet, musky scent that only made him want her more. "Such a pure, valuable pink flower, reserved especially for me," he whispered. When his mouth made contact with her womanhood, Arya moaned softly, putting her hand over her mouth. "No, it's filthy. You shouldn't." "There's nothing filthy about you," Leon snarled, raising his golden eyes to hers. "You taste like heaven." And with that, he plunged in, a long, deep kiss against her drenched folds. "Ah!" she exclaimed, her back arcing. Her hands grasped the couch cushions, her face red with burning. Leon's tongue slid with maddening slowness, pulling from the bottom of her slit to the throbbing nub above. He tickled it softly. SLLRP, SLRRP, HNN. Her body bucked with every movement, every lunge of his tongue. The feelings were too much, too raw, too intimate. Her thighs quivered, trying to push back, but he gripped her tightly, mouth never breaking away. His tongue probed between her folds, sliding into her, savoring her. The wet noises were obscene, slippery, hungry, voracious. Arya whimpered softly, overcome. Her hips rocked to themselves, grinding tenderly into his mouth. She bit her own knuckles hard to keep herself from screaming. I can't. Something's happening." Leon didn't let up. His tongue jammed and curved in just the right places. His lips sucked around her clit and sealed, pulling gently on her. SLRP schlick, SLRRP. She groans. HHH. A taste of sweetness, part 2. She moans. HHH. She collapsed back against the cushions, chest heaving, face flushed crimson. I'm sorry," she whispered through a haze of pleasure and embarrassment. Her eyes brimmed with tears. "I didn't mean to, on your face." Leon rose slowly, licking her essence from his lips, then wiped the rest with his fingers, before slipping one into his mouth. He closed his eyes and smiled. "Sweet, intoxicating. I've tasted rare fruits and aged wine, but nothing like this." Arya's face burned. Her body felt exposed, raw, vulnerable. "You're bad," she whispered. He leaned over her, golden eyes gleaming with heat and amusement. "I only gave you what your body begged me for." Her breath hitched as he kissed her again, softly this time, a gentle contrast to the fire before. Her lips trembled against his. She could taste herself on his tongue, a twisted intimacy that made her dizzy. Then she felt it again, that thick, hard pressure resting against her stomach, hot and throbbing through his pants. She glanced down and froze. "My lord, it's poking me," she murmured, her voice trembling, eyes wide. Leon chuckled, low and dark. "You did this. Do you plan to leave me suffering, little maid?" Her lips parted. Her breath quickened. "Tien, should I help you?" she asked, voice barely audible. He leaned back, sitting on the couch, his long legs spread slightly. His golden eyes locked on hers. "Show me." Arya rose to her knees, her trembling fingers reaching for his belt. Her fingers fumbled at first, brushing against the heat straining beneath the fabric. She gasped quietly at the sheer size and weight pressing against her palm. "It's so big," she whispered, cheeks flushed deep crimson. Leon smirked, saying nothing, just watching her with a gaze that burned. Finally, the buckle came undone with a soft clink, and she hesitantly unfastened the buttons of his pants. The moment the fabric loosened, it sprang free, his manhood standing tall and thick, veined and flushed, proud and throbbing in front of her disbelieving eyes. She froze. "Oh!" Her breath hitched. "It's huge." She couldn't help but stare. 6 thick inches pulsing with need. It twitched under her gaze as if responding to her awe. The scent hit her, rich, musky, masculine. Her thighs clenched instinctively. "Go on," Leon said softly, brushing a hand through her silken hair. "Touch it." With nervous fingers, she reached out and wrapped her hand around the base. Warm, hard, and yet velvety soft. "H." She exhaled shakily. "It's throbbing." He groaned the moment she gave a gentle stroke, his hand tightening slightly in her hair. "Good girl," he growled, voice thick with pleasure. Just like that, the praise lit something inside her. She leaned in slowly, her lips parting as her tongue darted out, just a small lick across the swollen head. SLRP. A drop of clear fluid glistened at the tip. She tasted it. Bitter, salty, addictively masculine. She blushed deeper and opened her mouth wider, wrapping her lips around the tip, her tongue swirling gently. SLRP. Leon exhaled through his nose, eyes darkening further as he watched her. His fingers threaded deeper into her hair, gently guiding her pace. "That's it. Take a little more, Arya." She did. Inch by inch, his shaft slid into her mouth. She gagged slightly, but forced herself to continue, tears welling in her eyes as she adjusted. "You're doing so well." Her heart fluttered at the words. She began to move, slow, uncertain bobs of her head at first, each motion slick with saliva, her tongue dancing along the underside of his cock. SLRRP, GLK. His soft groans above her only spurred her on. Her pace quickened, hands gripping his thighs for balance as her mouth worked him over with increasing fervor. "You learn fast," he murmured, voice strained. Such a talented little mouth. Her cheeks burned hotter. She moaned around him, sending vibrations through his shaft. Fuck. Leon's head tilted back slightly, his muscles tense. His hand pressed her down gently, his cock hitting the back of her throat. She choked but didn't pull away. She kept moving her head up and down. His breathing grew ragged. "Arya, I'm going to." She didn't stop. She took him deeper, faster, her eyes locked on his expression. And then, he came. Thick spurts of hot seed shot in her mouth, filling her. She coughed once but swallowed quickly, determined not to waste a single drop. SLRR. When he was done, she gently licked him clean, her cheeks hollowing slightly as she drew out the last bits. She pulled back, panting softly, a thin string of fluid still connecting her lips to his tip. "Sweet, but a little bitter," she murmured shyly, licking her lips. Leon looked down at her, his beautiful maid, flushed and breathless, kneeling with eyes half-lidded and cheeks painted red. "You did perfectly," he said, brushing a thumb across her slick bottom lip. "Better than I could have imagined." Arya blinked up at him, dazed. Thank you, my lord," she said in embarrassed tone, her face full flushed. "You look even cuter when you're embarrassed." Leon's words very soft that make Arya's heart stuttered. Her lips parted to speak, but no words came. He didn't give her the chance. With one fluid motion, Leon pulled her down again, pinning her back onto the velvet couch. Her breath hitched as his body pressed firmly against hers. Hot, powerful, dominant. And then his lips crashed into hers. A kiss of claim. It was rough, hungry, filled with possession. He devoured her mouth like it belonged to him. And she kissed him back. Her fingers clutched his back tightly, knuckles white, her mind spinning. When he finally pulled away, his golden eyes locked onto hers like a hunter to his prey. "From now on," he said, low and resolute, "you are mine, Arya." Her breath caught. She couldn't meet his gaze. Her cheeks burned, her body trembled. A quiet, stunned nod was all she could give. Leon smirked. One hand slid behind her neck, cradling it. The other traced her thigh, slowly, teasingly. "Say it," he demanded, soft and dangerous. "Say you're mine." Arya's lips quivered. Her voice broke free in a trembling whisper. "I'm yours, my lord." His eyes darkened in pure satisfaction. "Good girl." His hand slid further now, between her thighs under her skirt. He found her soaked panties and pushed them aside. She gasped when the thick head of his arousal pressed against her slick, sensitive entrance, but he didn't enter. Instead, He rested it against her swollen clit. Just that. The heat, the pressure. It made her hips twitch and her thighs squeeze tightly around him. NNNGH, she whimpered, body tensing. You feel that? He whispered against her ear. This is what you do to me, little maid. Her nails dug into his back. Her body arched slightly beneath him, lips parted in a silent moan. Every nerve was on fire, her breath shallow and quick. But then, knock, knock. The sound hit like a cold blade. Both froze. My lord, a gruff voice called from the other side of the door. Apologies for disturbing you in your official work time, but someone requests an urgent audience. Leon didn't move for a moment, his body still pressed tightly against Aria's. His jaw clenched in irritation. TCH. He looked down at her, lips curling in frustration. They always come at the worst times. Then, in a calm, cool voice, he called out, Tell them to wait 10 minutes. I'm occupied. Understood, my lord. The guard responded, and heavy boots faded into the hallway. Leon turned back to Arya. Don't worry, he whispered softly. We'll continue where we left off soon. Her entire body was flushed. Her thighs still trembled. Her lips were parted, but she could only nod, flustered and disappointed. Slowly, he slid off her, standing tall and stretching lazily. Arya sat up, cheeks still flushed, her maid outfit clinging to her flushed skin. She avoided his eyes as she adjusted her clothes with shaking fingers. Leon pulled on his robe and pants, glancing at her with lingering hunger in his gaze. Then, in a quiet voice, Arya spoke. My lord, you should sit at your desk. I need to clean here. He raised an amused brow. Sure. But as he passed her, he grabbed her wrist and pulled her into another kiss. Not rushed, not wild. This one was slow, intimate, filled with something far more dangerous than lust. Their lips moved in sync, tongues brushing, breaths mingling. She melted against him, her knees nearly giving out. When he finally pulled back, her eyes were dazed, her lips parted, and her face utterly flushed. Clean quickly, he said with soft voice. Then come to me. Arya stared at the floor, cheeks red. She nodded. Yes, my lord. As she turned toward the mess they'd left behind, her eyes drifted briefly to the high windows, where the light cast long golden shadows across the floor. Her expression was unreadable, cool as ever, but deep in her chest, her heart wouldn't stop fluttering. A storm had begun within her. The hidden eye. 10 minutes later, another knock echoed from the study's heavy oak door. Leon, now seated behind his desk, straightened his back and acted like a noble deeply immersed in official duties. His golden eyes flicked over city documents with an air of nobility, posture straight and composed, as if nothing scandalous had just transpired in this very room. Behind him stood Arya, her silver blonde hair perfectly tied again, her face as stoic and composed as ever. But anyone who looked closely could spot the faint blush on her porcelain cheeks. She had cleaned up the mess they'd made earlier, inside and out, and now stood like a dutiful secretary. Only the slight trembling of her fingers behind her back hinted at anything improper. Leon cleared his throat. Send them in. With a soft creak, the heavy library door opened. A tall, thin man stepped inside, dressed in a plain brown tunic and travel-worn cloak. His build was lean, bordering on wiry, with sunken cheekbones and intelligent eyes that flicked across the room as if scanning every corner. His short, unkempt black hair gave him the look of a common man, but the glint in his eyes said otherwise. Leon's gaze narrowed. He searched through the former duke's fragmented memories, trying to place the man's face. It took only a breath before recognition struck him. The man dropped to one knee, placing a clenched fist across his chest. Your Grace, he said with reverence, Ronan greets you. Ronan. The name echoed in Leon's mind. Of course. Ronan had been one of the former Leon's most trusted confidants, his hidden dagger in the shadows. Officially, he was the owner of a low, key yet popular tavern in the city called the Moon Shadow. But in truth, he was the Duke's eyes and ears within the city, watching both citizens and officials alike. Corruption, treason, rebellion. Any whisper that passed through city eventually found its way to Ronan's ears, and then to Leon's. Only two people knew of his true identity, Leon and Arya. Not even his own daughter, Rus, had the slightest clue. Not because he didn't trust her, simply because former Leon didn't want her tangled in the political undercurrent that was already too deep and too dangerous for her. Leon exhaled softly and gestured with 2 fingers. Stand. Ronan rose gracefully, his movements as disciplined as a soldier despite his ragged appearance. Leon's eyes remained sharp. Well, what's happening in the city? Ronan nodded. Everything runs smoothly, my lord. Trade, security, patrols. Nothing unusual on the surface. But Leon caught the hesitation immediately. He leaned forward slightly. But Ronan's expression grew grim. A group arrived yesterday. Foreigners. Their presence is unusual. They did not register at the main gate, and their attire and behavior do not match any known noble faction or merchant caravan. They move as if searching for something, but they speak to no one. Silent, focused, suspicious, observing key locations, following patrols. Leon's eyes sharpened. You're saying they could be more than they appear? Ronan nodded. I suspect they're spy of neighboring kingdom. Leon leaned back in his chair, fingers drumming the armrest. A cold thought passed through his mind. If they're spies and up to something, it could get bad, and getting involved could be lethal. If in his place former Leon he would have crushed threats like these without blinking. He had been a Grandmaster Realm cultivator. But now, this body, though noble in blood, was empty of power. His former cultivation was gone, drained entirely in process to heal his body, and he was immortal now, fragile and easy target. Neither Arya nor Rus had realized it. Arya, though loyal, was only a Master Realm cultivator and could not sense the subtle differences of the higher stages. And Rus, that girl was still at the peak of the Novice Realm. Keep a close watch, Leon said firmly, his voice cold and crisp. If they act anything, report to me immediately. No hesitation. Darren bowed again. As you command. He turned and left without another word, disappearing beyond the heavy doors like a shadow returning to the dark. As the door clicked shut, Leon exhaled and leaned back with a deep sigh. So even in this life, peace won't come easily. He sighs and aside the thought then, his golden eyes flicked to Arya, who was already looking at him. Her gaze met his, calm and composed, but her flushed cheeks betrayed the flicker of memory still fresh between them. He raised a brow, smirking. What are you standing there for? Come here. Arya's cheeks deepened in color, but she didn't move. My lord, she said in a voice that tried to be stern but trembled slightly, you still have several documents to review. The city's development budget and zoning approvals require your signature before tomorrow's official meeting. Leon groaned and leaned his head back dramatically. Can't it wait? She shook her head, lips pressed together in mild embarrassment. Unfortunately, no. Who knew being a duke meant drowning in paperwork? He muttered under his breath. This work is so boring. Still, he straightened, reached for the nearest scroll, and opened it with a resigned sigh. Arya stepped forward, taking her place beside him, her fingers occasionally brushing his as she pointed out details. Still, he straightened up with a dramatic sigh, pulled the nearest scroll toward him, and began reading. Arya handed him a quill with a small smile tugging at the corner of her lips, just barely there. Leon caught it, and so, with parchment stacked high and the scent of ink and wax filling the study, Duke Leon Eldrin buried himself once more in the dull but necessary duties of dukeship. Whispers beneath the moonlight. As the final document was signed and the last seal pressed, Leon leaned back in his chair, exhaling deeply. The sky outside had already dimmed into shades of indigo, with the soft glow of moonlight spilling through the tall windows of his study. This is exhausting, he muttered in his mind, rotating his shoulders to ease the tension. He stood up, stretching his long frame, and turned toward Arya, who had been standing silently behind him like a proper attendant. But even in her stillness, she radiated quiet warmth. Without warning, Leon stepped forward and gently pulled her into his arms. She gasped, eyes widening as her cheek brushed against his chest. "And my lord." Leon smiled, a flicker of amusement and something deeper dancing in his golden eyes. "Now that the day's work is done, I believe we were interrupted earlier in afternoon." A soft, startled breath escaped her lips. Her cheeks, usually so composed, flushed a delicate pink as she placed a hesitant hand against his chest. "You should rest, my lord. You must be tired." Leon lowered his head slightly, his breath brushing the shell of her ear. "I'm tired. If you don't believe me, perhaps I should show you just how much energy I have." She stared into his gaze, and for a heartbeat, the stoic mask she always wore cracked. Before Leon could speak again, she pressed her lips against his. It was quick, just a kiss, tentative but full of emotion. Her lips were warm and trembling, her body taut in his arms. He surprised, startled not by the kiss itself, but by the fact that she initiated it. Arya pulled away almost instantly, her face now a glowing shade of crimson. I have duties to attend to as a head maid, my lord," she stammered, voice tight and rushed. "Please excuse me." And with that, she turned and rushed out the door like a startled rabbit. Leon stood there, stunned, sheer running like rabbit. Then he chuckled under his breath, golden eyes gleaming with delight. "You tricky little maid, you ran away. But if not today, then tomorrow I'll catch you for good to pin you down my body and make you mine." He looked up at the moonlight filtering through the windows, his mood lifted despite the day's toil. Then his thoughts drifted. Rus, that crimson-haired beauty, his daughter who have daddy complex. How he thinks her. Perhaps she waited for me in my room. With his heart pounding, not from lust alone, but from anticipation and curiosity, Leon exited his study and walked through the dim halls of the mansion, each step echoing in the silence. He reached his chambers and opened the door, and froze. His breath hitched. Candlelight danced over the room, casting golden shadows across the floor. On the bed, covered only by a thin sheet, lay Rus, her crimson hair cascading around her like molten silk. Her delicate hands covered her chest and womanhood, but it was more of a tease than protection. Her red eyes met his, glowing with a mix of defiance, desire, and something even more dangerous, acceptance. "Daddy," she whispered. Leon's heart thundered, but he didn't move. Not yet. He took in the scene, his mind racing, his body reacting, but more than that, something stirred deeper. This wasn't just seduction. Crimson temptation, Rus. The soft flicker of candlelight painted the room in hues of gold and crimson, shadows swaying gently on the walls like silent spectators. A subtle floral scent lingered in the air, rose oil, perhaps, or thickening the atmosphere with a teasing intimacy. Leon stepped into his chamber, closing the door behind him with a soft click. Leon stepped into his room and froze. He hadn't expected this. Not entirely, but part of him, part of the man he had become in this new life, had hoped. There she was, there, resting atop his bed with only a sheet of silk draped teasingly across her form, was Rus. Her crimson hair spilled across the pillows like liquid fire, strands catching the candlelight and dancing with sensual shadows. A single black silk sheet draped lazily over her, barely clinging to her breasts and hips. Each breath she took threatening to cast it aside. Her crimson eyes glowed beneath half-lidded lashes, locking onto his like a predator locking onto prey. Her glowing red eyes met his. Steady, unblinking, challenging. "Daddy," she whispered, voice velvet and heat, soaked in need. Leon didn't speak. He couldn't, not immediately. The sight of her stole his words, burned the air in his lungs. Rus, once soft-spoken and reserved, was no longer shy. She radiated womanhood now, sensual and dangerous, like a priestess of sin offering herself at the altar of forbidden gods. She rose from the bed like a dark flame. The silk slipped down her body, pooling at her feet with a whisper. There was no modesty in her, only power. Rus knew her effect on him. She wielded it like a blade. Leon's eyes roamed, neck to breast, breast to waist, waist to the curve of her thighs. Her skin glowed under candlelight, a delicate blush spreading across her chest and cheeks. Her breasts were full and perky, her nipples already hardened from the cool air or her own anticipation. Her hips curved like poetry. Her thighs, smooth and strong, moved with sensual grace. Her pink, beautiful womanhood shone with her arousal, her soft hips. She walked to him, slow and deliberate, the sway of her body like a siren's song. Rus walked to him with the poise of a goddess descending from her altar. She stopped just inches away, her breasts pressed softly against his chest, her nipples like firm points of heat through the fabric. Her breath ghosted across his jaw as she whispered, "You've been gone all day, and I've been waiting here." Aching, he gritted his teeth, suppressing the primal urge rising inside him. His hand moved slowly, possessively, to her hips, squeezing the soft flesh there. She gasped, her body pressing further against him. "And this is how you greet me?" His voice was low, amused, dark. "It's how you want me to," she purred, her lips trailing along his jaw, her fingers undoing his shirt, button by button. "You want to see me like this, don't you? Naked, begging. Yours." Leon's hand tightened on her hip, pulling her flush against him. Her breath hitched as her breasts rubbed against his bare chest, nipples catching on skin like sparks. "Sweetheart," he murmured, voice thick, "what exactly are you trying to achieve?" Rias's lips curved in a bold smile, her face flushed and glowing. "What do you think, Daddy?" she said. "I'm trying to seduce you. Completely. I want you to be mine." Leon's smile widened, dangerous and teasing. "My little girl, dreaming of seducing her daddy?" She shivered, not from fear, but from the truth in his words. His hand slid lower, gripping the curve of her ass, drawing a moan from her throat. She pressed harder against him, and her eyes widened slightly as she felt the thick length straining against his pants. Her smile deepened, wicked and beautiful. Her hand trailed down, brushing along his waistline, hovering above the pulsing heat. "Were you thinking about me today?" she asked, crimson eyes burning into his soul. "Every damn second. Already?" she teased, voice breathless. "You're that hard for me?" "Look at yourself," Leon growled, golden eyes drinking her in. "You're a sin wrapped in skin." She leaned up, lips brushing his. "Then take me." He grabbed her chin, lifting her face, forcing her eyes to lock with his. "You want to be mine, Rus?" "All of me," she whispered. "Every breath, every inch, every moan," she said and leaned in, her lips grazing his. "Then let me reward your patience." Before he could answer, her lips claimed his. It was fire and silk, wet, deep, messy. Their tongues danced, tangled, devouring each other. Her hands slipped into his hair, fingers tightening. His own hands gripped her hips, squeezing hard, drawing moans from her throat as they kissed like sinners at the altar of forbidden love. She tasted like heat and honey, and he drank her in with no restraint. When they finally parted, breathless and wild-eyed, Leon chuckled, voice rough. "Compared to this morning, your kissing's improved, sweetheart." Rus didn't speak. She smiled, dark and wicked. Then, with a fluid motion of hips and breasts, she pushed him toward the bed, guiding him down into a seated position. He sat, eyes locked on her as she knelt between his legs. Rus knelt between Leon's legs, her crimson hair cascading like blood silk, brushing against his thighs with every breath she took. Her hands trailed along his legs, featherlight, teasing, as her scarlet eyes met his golden gaze, glowing with something dark and deeply carnal. "Are you ready for tonight, Daddy?" she whispered, voice like velvet sin. Leon leaned back slightly, lips curling into a smirk. "Sweetheart, I was born ready." She giggled, soft, low, yet seductive, before slowly, deliberately, reaching for the buttons of his trousers. Her fingers moved with an artful grace, undoing each one like unwrapping a dangerous gift. The moment the fabric loosened, it jumped free, his manhood standing tall and thick, veined and flushed, proud and throbbing along its length, the head already slick with precum. Rias's lips parted ever so slightly. She brushed her fingers along the base, her touch warm, reverent, worshipful. Your manhood looks so big compared to morning, Daddy, she murmured, a teasing edge in her voice. Leon chuckled under his breath, brushing his thumb along her cheek. And you're more dangerous than morning, my little demon. With that, Rias leaned forward and pressed a kiss, soft and sinful, at the base of his manhood. Another at the tip. Then, slowly, she trailed her tongue along the length, a motion that made his entire body tense with heat. But before things could spiral further, her eyes never left his as she leaned in, lips brushing against his tip. She kissed it first, gentle, worshipful, then gave a long, slow lick from the base to the head. His breath hissed through his teeth as her tongue traced his veins, warm and wet. Then she took him in. Ah, fuck, Leon groaned, fingers digging into her hair. Her lips wrapped around him, sucking gently at first, then deeper, slow, controlled strokes. Wet, obscene sounds filled the room. Her throat tightened as she took more of him, saliva dripping from the corners of her mouth. GLCK, SLRP, GLCK. Her head bobbed, faster now, her hand stroking what her mouth couldn't reach. Her eyes stared up at him, teary and glowing with heat, her lashes fluttering as she swallowed around him again and again. He grunted, hips twitching, the sight of her on her knees, mouth full of him, so obedient, so hungry, driving him to the edge. Shit, Rias, your mouth. It's too good. She moaned around him, the vibration pulling a curse from his lips. He grabbed the back of her head, thrusting slightly, controlled but firm, guiding her pace. She welcomed it, hollowing her cheeks, sucking harder, deeper. Strings of saliva clung to her lips every time she pulled back, only to take him again with a wet slurp. SLRP, GLCK, SLRRRP. The sound of her devotion, the heat of her mouth, the sight of her flushed cheeks and glistening chin. It was all too much. Rias, I'm close. She pulled back with a pop, licking the tip with slow, deliberate circles. Do it, she said, voice hoarse with lust. Come in my mouth. I want to taste all of you, Daddy. Leon growled, and with a final thrust, he erupted, hot spurts filling her mouth. She moaned as she swallowed every drop, her eyes fluttering shut in bliss. Not a single trace escaped her lips. When she pulled back, she licked them clean with a satisfied smile. Then she looked up at him, flushed, panting, glowing. I'm yours, Daddy, she whispered. Every inch of me. Those words snapped something deep inside Leon. His golden eyes darkened with primal intensity. He stepped forward, wrapped his arms around her, and effortlessly lifted her off the floor. Her soft gasp fluttered in his ear as he carried her like she weighed nothing, her bare skin pressing warmly against his chest. Then he threw her, not with force, but with playful, unrestrained passion. Rias yelped in surprise as her body bounced lightly on the bed, her long raven hair spilling over the black silk pillows. Her laugh followed, breathy and flirtatious, eyes gleaming like molten gold. That was bold, Daddy. Leon didn't answer with words. He stripped off his clothes, every last barrier between him and her, until he stood bare before her, his body sculpted like a god carved from fire and war. She giggled, clearly enjoying the show. Then he climbed over her and pinned her beneath him. And without any word, his mouth crashed down on hers in a kiss that was all teeth and hunger. Fierce, consuming, an unspoken promise that she was his utterly and completely. While he fiercely kisses her, Rias couldn't help but try to speak words between kiss, but those words came out strangely. But Leon understood everything. I'm only yours, all of me, for you. I'll only look and think about you, so never abandon me, Daddy. He stopped using words and began using actions. A desire arose inside his body and consumed his whole soul. A desire to mark her whole body and make her his and only his forever. He kissed down along her lips, her cheeks, her eyes, her nose, then her neck. Each kiss was a mark, a claim, his breath warm and heavy. Her body trembled as he reached her chest again, taking one soft mound into his mouth, while his hand playing with other. Her moan vibrated against his lips as his hands, playing with her body, cupping the swell of her breasts, thumbs teasing the tips until she squirmed beneath him. Her back arched, offering herself to him like a prayer, her fingers tangled in his hair, pressing him deeper into her chest. And then his kiss dipped lower, across her stomach, over her navel, where he left a trail of fire with his lips. She writhed under him, glowing with arousal and love, her body lit with anticipation. "Daddy," she whispered. "Shoo," he murmured, kissing her again. "I'm not done marking what's mine." With he went down further while kissing her belly, and then, after passing through the navel, he arrived at the promised land or womanhood. He sat back for a moment, eyes roaming over her flushed, naked body, trembling, breathless. He mesmerized by how her chest rose, how her eyes fluttered, how her thighs squeezed together. He looked at the glistening spot between her thighs and smiled. "You're dripping, my little girl. Only for you." "Daddy," she whispered with burning face and half-open crimson eyes. His smile deepens, then his slowly parted her thigh, then exposing the delicate, pink fold beneath. Her scent hit him, a sweet, musky, womanly smell that only aroused him further. When his lips touched her womanhood, Rhys cried out softly, while pressing his head deeper in her womanhood. But he gives her there a long, deep kiss against her soaked folds. "Ah, Daddy," she cried out, her back arching. Her hands clutched his hair, her face burning red. Leon's tongue moved with maddening slowness, dragging from the bottom of her slit to the aching nub above. He flicked it gently. SLRP, SLRRP, HNNN. Her body jolted with every movement, every stroke of his tongue. The sensations were unbearable, too raw, too intimate. Her thighs trembled, trying to resist, but he held her firm, mouth never leaving her. His tongue pushed past her folds, sliding inside her, tasting her. The wet sounds were obscene, slick, greedy, insatiable. Rhys feel overwhelmed pleasure. Her hips move on their own, grinding gently into his mouth. "Ah, I can't. I am coming, Daddy." Leon didn't stop. His tongue pressed and curled in just the right spots. His lips sealed around her clit and sucked gently. SLRP schlick, SLRP. She moans, and then she broke. "Ah, HHH." Crimson Temptation, Rhys. Part 2. Leon held her, drinking in every drop, every twitch, until her breathing calmed and her grip on him loosened. He pulled himself to just enough to see her face, flushed, eyes glazed like twin rubies caught in candlelight. A few strands of crimson hair clung to her damp cheek. With a reverent touch, he brushed them aside, letting his thumb linger at her jaw, grounding her in his warmth. She leaned in, and their lips met, not with hunger, but with fragile tenderness. A kiss not of want, but of soul-deep need. It was slow, achingly so. Her lips tasted like longing, like the sweetness of first bloom in spring after a cruel winter. She whimpered softly into the kiss, her fingers curling into his hair, as if afraid he'd fade into dream. Leon gathered her closer, deepening the kiss with care. Their mouths moved in harmony, a rhythm written only for them. Tongues brushed, breaths tangled, and the space between them pulsed with quiet ache. When they finally parted, breathless, her giggle broke the silence like chimes in a breeze, soft, disbelieving, full of joy. "D-Daddy," she whispered, voice thin with emotion. I want," but words failed her. And then he kissed her again. This time it was different, rougher, wilder, possessive. His lips claimed hers like a storm devouring the sea, and she welcomed it, her fingers clutching his back, her soul soaring. When he broke the kiss, his golden eyes burned into hers, no longer a prince, but a promise wrapped in fire. "From now on," he said, low and resolute, "you are mine, Arya." Her breath caught, but with bold smile she said, "I am always your Daddy." Leon smirked on her bold word. One hand slid behind her neck, cradling it. The other traced her thigh, slowly, teasingly. She gasped when the thick head of his manhood pressed against her slick, sensitive entrance, but he didn't enter. Instead, he rested it against her swollen clit. Just that. The heat, the pressure, It made her hips twitch and her thighs squeeze tightly around him. NNNGH, she whimpered, body tensing. You feel that? He whispered against her ear. This is what you crave, my little demon. Aria's lips quivered. Her voice broke free in a trembling whisper. I want to feel you, she whispered, please. I want you inside me. His eyes darkened in pure satisfaction. Good girl. He kissed her forehead gently, reverently, then her nose, then her lips, this time slower, deeper, tender, as if sealing a vow. And then, carefully he moved slowly, reverently, entering her inch by inch. Her breath hitched, a soft gasp escaping her lips as her body tensed, unfamiliar with the sensation. Leon paused at once, cradling her cheek in his palm, his golden eyes locked onto hers, searching for the slightest flicker of discomfort, ready to stop if she asked. But instead, she looked up at him, with the most radiant smile he had ever seen. It lit up her tear-wet eyes like morning sun over dewdrops. Her body welcomed him, and with the same patience, he continued until he met resistance, the fragile barrier of innocence. He understood. He knew, and he waited, but she only nodded, a silent invitation written in trust, her fingers tightening around his as her smile grew even braver. So, with gentle determination, he pushed forward, breaking through with care, claiming not just her body but the depth of her heart. A warm ache bloomed between them, and the air stilled. A few drops of blood stained the moment, marking what was given freely and wholly. And then he saw them, tears rolling down her cheeks. Panic flickered in his heart. Rus, he whispered, already beginning to pull away. Did I? But her legs curled around him tightly, drawing him back, anchoring him to her. Before he could say another word, she reached up, brushing away her own tears with trembling fingers, and whispered with a voice full of light. They're tears of joy. I'm so happy we're finally one. Daddy. Her smile trembled. Now, you can never leave me. Leon's heart clenched, overwhelmed, moved. He cupped her face, leaned in, and kissed the corner of her mouth, then her temple. Why would I ever leave, my most precious princess? Then he thrust inside her, her moan reverted in room. And how when he looked her saw a silly smile on her face, like she enjoying in every thrust, and of course, Rus wasn't the only one feeling good. He, the 2 times virgin who finally lost his virginity, felt jolts of pleasure assaulting his body as her warm and squishy insides clustered around his dick, while her womb was already sucking his dick deeper and deeper, as if it wanted to engulf the whole thing. Taking a deep breath, he aside all his thoughts and start focusing girl beneath him, and he pulled back his dick before plunging it even deeper than before. And, ugh hi. Relishing the otherworldly feeling, Leon paused for a moment before he drilled her again, then again, and again, before he lost in pleasure and continued. Hand. Ugh hi. The two moaned as they mated like animals. Leon tried to go deeper with every thrust. Rus clenched the bedsheets hard as she bit her lips so that she can control her moans, but it was clear that she failed miserably. Noticing that he was about to come, Leon slowed his thrust before, and he bent down slightly and started licking her pink nipple while he kneaded her other breast with his hands. Another jolt of pleasure assaulted the Rus. And she moaned in pleasure before she grabbed his head and forced it deeper into her chest. Her lower body twitched in pleasure, her canals tightened, squishing and crushing his dick with her soft insides. Ugnith. Unable to cope with sudden pleasure, his milk burst out and he came. As his thick milk filled her insides, it was as if her last wall was broken and Rus threw her head back, crying out his name, her entire body seizing in climax. Anne and Daddy. Suddenly, Leon felt a strange, warm current flowed through his veins, mystical, powerful. A whisper of power, a system notification echoed faintly in his mind. But he ignored it. For now, nothing mattered but the girl in his arms. Leon collapsed beside her, pulling her close, her heartbeat fluttering against his chest. No words were spoken. None were needed. Silence followed. Heavy, sacred. They collapsed together in a tangle of limbs, her cheek resting against his chest, his arms wrapped protectively around her slender waist. Her breath came in soft, rhythmic waves, warm against his skin. "Daddy," she murmured after a while, brushing her lips along his jaw. "You were incredible." Leon didn't speak. He simply smiled, his fingers lazily tracing patterns along her bare back. "I still can't believe it," she whispered, her voice a delicate sigh. "You really made me yours." Leon tilted his head down, golden eyes glowing with a rare tenderness. He brushed a crimson strand from her face, tucking it gently behind her ear. "So, believe it, sweetheart. From today until eternity, I'll never leave you." She smiled, eyes teary again, not from pain, but from the fullness of emotion swelling in her heart. "Even if I wanted to, I don't think I could let you go," she said, voice barely audible. Leon chuckled softly and pressed a kiss to her forehead. "Good," he whispered, "because I'm never letting you go either." There was a long silence between them, comfortable, sacred, their breathing slow, hearts full, and yet, beneath the quiet, there was a pulsing heat, a lingering fire that hadn't quite gone out. Rhys shifted slightly, her soft curves brushing against him in a way that made his breath catch. She noticed, of course, and she smiled playfully. "You're still hard, Daddy." Leon chuckled, brushing a damp strand of hair from her cheek. "And you're still so damn tight, sweetheart." She bit her lip, her cheeks flushing as she shifted her hips just enough for him to groan. "Think you can handle another round?" "Oh, I can handle more than that," he growled, flipping her beneath him in one swift motion. She gasped in delight as he pinned her wrists above her head, his body poised over hers like a predator. "Round two?" she asked, smirking. Leon leaned down, his lips brushing hers. "No, my little demon, this is war." And with that, he entered her again, deeper, harder. Their bodies became one, again and again, lost in a cycle of craving and claiming. Moans and growls filled the room, along with the sound of flesh meeting flesh, hearts beating like war drums. They didn't stop, not until the candles burned low and the moon began to set. Morning whispers of sin. The golden fingers of dawn slipped through the silk curtains, casting warm light over the lavish chamber. Dust motes danced lazily in the sunbeams, illuminating the aftermath of a night soaked in passion and sin. Leon stirred. His broad chest rose and fell with each steady breath as the sunlight gently kissed his bare skin. The silk sheets tangled around his hips, clinging to the faint sheen of sweat that still lingered from the night before. A low, deep breath escaped his throat, a sound between a sigh and a growl, laced with satisfaction and weariness. Then he felt it. Warmth, wetness, movement. He groaned, his golden eyes fluttering open. The first thing he noticed wasn't the room or the sun, but sensation. A delicious, slow suction that made his spine arch slightly. His manhood was hard, straining under the sheet, and someone's lips were wrapped around him. He blinked the haze of sleep away and looked down. He looked down. The sheet tinted over his waist, but it moved subtly, steadily. With a flick of his hand, he drew it away. And there she was. Crimson locks spilled like fire over his thighs, glinting in the morning sun. Her crimson eyes gleamed up at him, filled with playful mischief and hunger. The sheets draped off her nude form, bearing the curve of her back and the soft swell of her rear. Her mouth, wrapped around his arousal, made the most obscene, wet sounds, slurp, pop, slrp as she pulled back, letting her tongue swirl around the tip. "Sweetheart," he muttered, his voice gravelly from sleep and pleasure. With a soft pop, she released him, licking her lips as if savoring a delicacy. "Darling," she purred, her voice thick with morning rasp and desire. "You were sleeping, but this part of you was wide awake." I couldn't resist. Leon chuckled, low and sinful, running a hand through her tangled hair. "A dangerous little demon, aren't you?" Rhys only smirked. Without another word, she dipped again, her lips and tongue working in rhythm, faster now, wetter, bolder. SLRP, SLRP. Her moans sent vibrations up his shaft, and Leon's hand clenched the sheets. His breath quickened. Each movement, Each swirl of her tongue made him pulse harder. "Sweetheart," he groaned, the sound like thunder in his chest. "I'm coming." She didn't flinch. She drank every drop, crimson eyes locked on his. When she finally pulled away, she licked her lips with exaggerated slowness, her cheeks flushed, breath heavy. "You taste better in the morning," she whispered boldly, crawling up to straddle his stomach. Her skin still glowed from last night's passion. A soft sheen of sweat shimmered across her collarbones and thighs, and her scent, feminine, rich, sinful, mixed with his, still thick in the air. The curve of her breasts swayed with each breath, her pink nipples tight from arousal. Her body glistened faintly in the sunlight, flawless, glowing. Her womanhood brushed against his abs, leaving heat in its wake. She leaned down, lips brushing his, her hair creating a crimson curtain around them. Leon slid his hands along her waist, gripping her hips gently. "You're bold in the morning." "I'm yours," she whispered. "Why should I hold back?" He smiled, slow, dangerous, and full of desire. "You're playing with fire." She leaned down, her lips brushing his ear. "Then burn me, Daddy." Then he flipped her in one smooth motion. Now she lay beneath him, laughing breathlessly. "You always do that," she pouted on his action. "Because I love this view," he smiled, whispered, before capturing her lips. The kiss was molten, tongues danced, breaths mingled, teeth grazed. His hands roamed, her sides, her waist, the curve of her hip. She arched into him, moaning against his lips, "NGHH," as he explored every inch of her. Then he rolled her to her knees, her back arched in surrender, hips high. He paused, eyes devouring her. The perfect dip of her spine, the round swell of her hips, the soft heat between her thighs glistening with anticipation. "Wait," she whispered, glancing back. "I was only teasing." His hand slid over her ass, squeezing gently. "Teasing comes with consequences, sweetheart." Her breath hitched. "But I'm still sore from last night." "I'll be gentle," he lied with a wicked smirk. With one deep, slow thrust, he entered her. "Ah, Daddy," she cried out, voice trembling with pleasure. He set a steady pace, each movement drawing another sound from her lips. "NGH, MHH, ah," and each one fed his hunger. Their bodies moved like poetry, clashing, craving, consuming. They continued their love-making session till noon. They didn't rush. This wasn't lust. It was love and passion. Who know how many loves-making session after their bodies finally collapsed in exhaustion. The sun had risen high in the sky, and their tangled limbs were slick with heat and sweat. The bed was a mess of silken sheets, tousled crimson hair, and their mingled warmth. Leon lay on his back, chest rising and falling as he caught his breath. Beside him, Rias curled into his side, her face flushed, eyes heavy-lidded and glowing. "Sweetheart," he murmured, stroking her hair. She hummed, barely awake. "I could get addicted to you." She giggled softly. "You already are." A long silence followed, the kind only lovers share after being completely undone by each other. Then, her voice returned, soft, yet laced with possessiveness. "You'll never leave me, right?" Leon turned his head and looked into her eyes. "Never. You're mine." Rias smiled, then whispered, "And you're mine?" "Daddy." Leon let out a soft chuckle, pulling her closer. But just as the warmth settled around them, knock, knock, a melodious voice followed. "My lord, may I come in?" They both froze, and quickly recognized voice. It was Arya, the head maid. Rias raised a brow. "She's here. Maybe she come to wake us." Leon glanced toward the door, then back at her. "Should I?" Rias smirked, unbothered, voice playful. "Come in, Arya." The door opened. Purple hair flowed like silk over Arya's shoulders, her maid uniform immaculate. The moment she stepped in, she stopped cold. The smell hit her first, thick, heady, unmistakably soaked in sweat, musk, and raw desire. Then her eyes fell on them. Leon, gloriously naked, golden skin still glistening. Rias, pressed against his chest, equally bare, cheeks pink and body glowing with sweat. Her heart pounded. She was no child. She knew what this meant. She'd seen them come back from a bath together, naked yesterday, both dripping wet, clothes clinging to sinful curves and muscle. But now, her lord, really fuck his daughter? Arya's cheeks turned crimson. Her thoughts scrambled. And yet, Arya, Rhea's call her smoothly, clearly completely unbothered by her position. Yes, young miss, she managed, her voice barely above a whisper. Can you fetch breakfast for me and Daddy? Rhea smiled, her voice honeyed. Something sweet. We've worked up an appetite. Arya nodded, her face flushed scarlet. Why, yes, young miss. She turned sharply, almost running out the door. Leon sighed on her playfulness, then kissed her temple. Bath. Yes, she murmured, stretching. He rose from the bed effortlessly. But when Rhys tried to stand, her legs trembled, and she fell. Leon caught her mid-fall, strong arms wrapping around her. Daddy, she pouted, half laughing. Look what you did to me. I can't even walk. Guilt flickered in his eyes. Sorry, I got swinged by your body. She gives him playful, sullen look, and she wrapped her arms around his neck, pressing against his bare chest. So carry me, Daddy. He smiled and lifted her with ease. Let me pamper you now, he whispered. And as she buried her face against his neck, a soft, content smile curved her lips.